I never thought my life would feel like a cheap soap opera until Thanksgiving. It all started with the clinking of glasses and the smell of roasted turkey drifting through the living room. The table was covered in an earthy brown cloth filled with traditional dishes. Our entire extended family had gathered at my parents' house in Portland. Aunt Carol brought her pumpkin pie. My cousin Luke was loudly cracking jokes at the head of the table. And me, I just sat quietly like I did every year. No one asked if I needed help. No one asked how work was going. They never really cared. I was cutting up mashed potatoes for my niece Ellie when a too familiar voice rang out sharp enough to freeze the room. Before we carve the turkey, I have something to say. My sister Vanessa stood up, flashing a smile that was sickeningly sweet. Her hair was meticulously curled, her nails painted blood red, her tone crisp and rehearsed like she practiced it in front of a mirror for hours. Everyone looked up, forks suspended in midair. I held my breath. "I think it's time we were all honest with each other," she said, glancing around the room like a pageant queen about to announce a winner. "Last week, we took a vote." My father cleared his throat. My mother set her wine glass down, visibly eager. "And the result," Vanessa paused, inhaling dramatically before turning to me. "Isla, we've decided. You are no longer part of this family." The room went still. I thought I misheard. But then the worst thing happened. The table applauded. Applause. Real applause. And Carol whistled softly. Luke raised his glass like he was toasting. At my mother? She burst out laughing like it was the funniest joke of the night. Finally, someone said it. She commented casually, like noting the weather. I looked at my father. He didn't turn to me, just shook his head slightly and murmured, "Maybe this is for the best." I sat frozen, my hand gripping the edge of the tablecloth. The turkey on my plate was still steaming, but I felt ice cold. My throat tightened, not from sadness, but fury. Slowly, I pushed my chair back and stood up in the smug silence. "You actually planned this?" Vanessa smiled, unmistakably victorious. "You've always been a thorn in everyone's side. Always so cold, distant, acting like you're better than us." They didn't respond, just nodded slowly, then bent down and picked up my purse. "I guess if I'm no longer family, then these won't be necessary." I placed a thick folder on the table. The sound it made was soft, but it sliced through the tension like a blade. Vanessa flinched. "What's this?" I crossed my arms, leaned back, and locked eyes with her. "Why don't you take a look?" The moment she flipped the first page, I saw it. That instant when her smile shattered like glass hitting tile. Her face turned pale. Her hands trembled as she turned to the next page. Then she shrieked, a sharp sound that made little Ellie burst into tears. Everyone stood up. Joel, Vanessa's husband, snatched the folder. Seconds later, he turned to me, his face drained of color. Is this real?" I nodded. Every number, every message, every lie. The holiday table became a silent battleground. Vanessa stood frozen, eyes still processing what she had read. The folder lay open, several pages now scattered on the floor from her shaking hands. No one said a word. The ticking wall clock and Ellie's sniffles on Aunt Carol's lap were the only sounds left. How did you get all of this?" Vanessa's voice cracked. I stepped toward the table, my voice steady, calmer than I expected. "Because I knew one day you'd do something you couldn't take back." Joel picked up one of the fallen pages. It showed a screenshot of a bank transfer, $2,800 from my account into one under Vanessa's name. right after she tearfully claimed Joel had lost his job. "And this?" Joel asked, voice low but sharp. "3 nights at the Grand Hill Hotel, charged to my card, booked under Alyssa Green." Vanessa opened her mouth, but couldn't form words. My mother tried to interject, but I raised my hand. "I'm not done." I bent down, pulled out another set of papers, and slid them toward my father. "These are for you. A full breakdown of everything I paid for your hospital bills after your fall last year. Itemized, receipts included." My father stared at the papers, his face unreadable, but his hand trembled slightly on the table. Then I turned to my mother. "And here's a screenshot of your bank transaction from March 14th, $2,200. I wired you to cover urgent credit card debt." My mother jumped in defensive. "Why are you bringing this up now? We're family. That money was given out of love." "What kind of love mocks me, excludes me, and then votes me off the dinner table?" I cut her off, eyes locked. "Not one of you ever apologized. None of you ever considered paying back a single dollar. I've been nothing but a walking wallet." Luke spoke up weakly. "Isla, maybe we shouldn't have clapped. We just didn't realize it was this serious." I turned to him calm, but razor sharp. "You clapped when I was kicked out of the family. You laughed when Vanessa insulted me in front of Ellie. You were silent every year I supported everyone, so don't pretend to be innocent now." The silence in the room grew heavier as I pulled out my phone. "Since we're being honest, let's go through everything, shall we?" I opened my notes app, the one I'd been quietly updating for years. March 2021. Vanessa needed $5,000 for Joel's medical emergency. Funny how that same weekend, they were posting beach vacation photos from Cancun. Vanessa's face turned red. Those were old photos. "Really?" I swiped to show time-stamped hotel receipts. "The Grand Sunset Resort seems to disagree. Posted by Alyssa Green, your favorite alias." Joel turned to Vanessa, his expression darkening. "You told me your friend paid for that trip." I continued, my voice steady. July 2022. Mom's desperate call about property taxes. $3,200 transferred. August 2022. Dad's car repair. $1,800. September 2022. Vanessa's business investment of $7,000, which actually funded her shopping spree at Nordstrom. My mother tried to interrupt. "Sweetheart, every family helps each other." "Let me finish." I cut her off. December 2022. Christmas gifts for everyone. January 2023. Ellie's private school deposit. February 2023. Dad's hospital bills. March 2023. Vanessa's emergency house repair. April 2023. Mom's credit card debt. May 2023. "Stop!" Vanessa screamed, her mascara starting to run. "Why are you doing this?" I looked at her calmly. "Because you all just voted to kick me out of the family. So let's make sure everyone knows exactly what they're voting away." I turned to my father. "Remember when you bragged to Uncle Steve about paying off your medical debt yourself?" Showing the transfer receipts from my account. Dad's face turned ashen. Uncle Steve looked between us, confusion turning to understanding. "Or how about when Vanessa won Employee of the Year at her company?" I continued. "Should we tell everyone about the $12,000 investment I made in her boss's wife's startup that mysteriously got her the nomination?" The room was dead silent now. Even little Ellie had stopped crying, sensing the tension. "And Mom," I turned to her, "remember that fundraiser you organized for the church? The one where you were praised for your generous anonymous donation. Would you like to tell everyone who actually made that donation?" My mother's hand started shaking. I meant to pay you back." "No, you didn't," I said softly. "None of you did, because you never saw me as family. I was just a convenient ATM with a guilty conscience." Aunt Carol, who had been unusually quiet, spoke up. "But why did you keep giving if they treated you this way?" I smiled sadly, because I kept hoping that one day, just one day, someone would say, "Thank you," and mean it. That someone would acknowledge me as more than just a walking checkbook. I pulled out one final document. This is a complete record of every loan, every gift, every financial support I've provided over the past 5 years. Total amount: $178,432. The number hung in the air like a guillotine. "But don't worry," I continued, my voice ice cold. "Since I'm no longer family, I've already contacted my lawyer. Every transaction will be treated as what it actually was, an unpaid loan. You have 30 days to start repayment, or we can discuss terms in court." Joel collapsed into his chair. We can't pay that back." "Not my problem anymore," I replied. "After all, I'm not family, remember?" The room erupted into chaos. Vanessa started sobbing, mascara running down her cheeks. Joel was frantically scrolling through their joint bank account on his phone. My mother had her head in her hands, while my father just sat there, staring at the pile of receipts like they were written in a language he couldn't understand. "You can't do this," Vanessa choked out between sobs. "We're your family." I let out a hollow laugh. "Funny how I'm family again when you need money. 10 minutes ago, you were leading the charge to kick me out." "But Ellie's school," she started. "Should have thought about that before the vote." I cut her off. "I'm sure you can find another private school that costs less than $30,000 a year, or maybe sell some of those designer bags I inadvertently funded." My father finally found his voice. "Isla, be reasonable. We can't possibly pay back that amount." I turned to him slowly. "Remember last month when I asked to borrow $200 for car repairs? You said, and I quote, 'It's time you learn to handle your own problems.' Well, Dad, it's time you all learned to handle yours." "But the hospital bills," he stammered, "are now your responsibility." I finished, just like they should have been from the start. My mother tried a different approach. "Sweetheart, we made a mistake. We were emotional. Can't we just forget this happened? Like you forgot about the $15,000 I gave you for home repairs? The money you actually spent on that luxury cruise?" I pulled out another receipt. The one you told everyone was won in a radio contest. The color drained from her face. Aunt Carol, who had been quietly processing everything, suddenly stood up. I think I need to leave." "Oh no," I said, pulling out another folder. "You might want to stay for this part. Remember that investment opportunity you pitched me last Christmas? The one that turned out to be a pyramid scheme?" She froze mid-step. "I have copies of all our conversations, the wire transfers, and," I smiled coldly, "the very interesting emails you sent to your friends bragging about how you'd found an easy mark in your naive niece." Luke, who had been unusually quiet, tried to slip away from the table. "Leaving so soon, cousin?" I called out. "Don't you want to explain to everyone how you managed to afford that new truck? The one you bought right after I loaned you money for your sick dog's surgery." He slumped back into his chair. I stood up, gathering my things. "You have 30 days to start repayment." My lawyer will contact each of you with payment plans based on the amount owed. If you choose not to comply, we'll handle this legally. But what about holidays? My mother asked weakly. Family gatherings? You voted, remember? I replied. I'm not family anymore. I'm just a creditor collecting on bad debts. Vanessa made one last desperate attempt. Please, Isla. Think about Ellie. She loves her school. I looked at my niece, who was watching everything with wide, confused eyes. Maybe you should have thought about Ellie before you taught her it's okay to mock and exclude people who help you. I walked to the door, then turned back one last time. Oh, and one more thing. I've already frozen all my accounts and credit cards. No more emergency calls. No more urgent transfers. No more silent ATM at your beck and call. The silence that followed was deafening. As I stepped out into the cool November air, my phone started buzzing with messages and calls. I blocked them all, one by one. In my car, I found an old photo tucked in the visor. Last year's Thanksgiving, everyone smiling, pretending to be the perfect family. I took it down and dropped it in the trash. 3 days later, my lawyer sent out the official notices. Within a week, Vanessa had to pull Ellie out of private school. My mother's credit cards were declined at her favorite stores. My father started getting calls from the hospital about payment plans. They tried everything: guilt trips through distant relatives, tearful voicemails, even showing up at my office. But I held firm. Years of manipulation and entitlement had finally met their match in cold, hard legal documentation. 6 months later, I sat in my new apartment across town, reading their first mandatory payment notifications. It wasn't about the money anymore. It was about consequences, about learning that actions have real repercussions. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Ellie, using her friend's phone. Aunt Isla, I miss you. Mom says we can't talk to you anymore, but I wanted you to know I understand now. They were mean to you. I'm sorry I didn't say anything. I smiled sadly and saved her message. Maybe there was hope for the next generation. Maybe they'd learn what the adults never did. That family isn't about what you can take, but what you freely give. And sometimes, the strongest love is knowing when to walk away. The following Thanksgiving, I had dinner with friends who became family. No hidden agendas. No financial manipulation, just genuine care and respect. As we shared meals and stories, I realized that sometimes losing a toxic family is the first step to finding your real one. And that folder? I keep it locked away, not as a weapon, but as a reminder that self-respect costs more than any amount of money, and that sometimes the most expensive lesson is learning who doesn't deserve you.
The baby shower invitation arrived on cream-coloured cardstock with gold foil lettering. $75 worth of paper to announce my sister's miracle pregnancy after years of supposed infertility treatments I'd been funding. My name is Jolie, and for the past 8 years I've been the family ATM. Look at this, I said, sliding the invitation across the coffee table to Mara, my best friend and the only person who'd witnessed my slow financial suicide. Lily's throwing herself a party that probably costs more than my rent. Mara picked up the invitation, her eyebrows climbing toward her hairline. The Rosewood Country Club? Jesus, Jolie, that's like $3,000 just for the venue. I laughed, but it came out bitter. Oh, that's nothing. You should see her Instagram stories. Designer maternity clothes, weekly spa appointments, a nursery that looks like it belongs in Architectural Digest. And you're still sending money. Every month, like clockwork. I pulled out my phone and showed her the bank transfer I'd made that morning. $2,000 to the Lily Medical Fund, same as always. Mara stared at the screen. For someone who's supposedly been chronically ill for 8 years, she sure looks healthy in all these photos. That was the thing that had been eating at me. Lily's social media showed a woman glowing with health, travelling to wine country, attending fitness classes, posting selfies from expensive restaurants. Meanwhile, I'd been living in the same cramped apartment since college, driving a car with 200,000 miles on it, and turning down dates because I couldn't afford dinner out. Mum called yesterday, I said, sinking back into my second-hand couch. Gave me the usual guilt trip about how Lily needs our support during this delicate time. How I'm the strong one, the responsible one, the one who can handle sacrifice. What did you say? What I always say. Of course, Mum. Whatever Lily needs. Mara shook her head. You know what kills me? Your parents act like you're some kind of saint for doing this. But when's the last time any of them actually thanked you? Like, really thanked you? I thought about it. When had they last acknowledged what I'd given up? The promotion I'd turned down because it required relocation, and I needed to stay close to help with Lily's emergencies. The relationship that ended because my boyfriend got tired of our dates being interrupted by family crises. The master's degree I deferred indefinitely because I couldn't afford tuition and Lily's medical bills. They don't thank saints, I said finally. They just expect miracles. My phone buzzed with a text from Mum. Hope you're planning something special for Lily's shower. She's been through so much, and this baby is such a blessing after all her health struggles. You know how much your support means to the family. Love you. I showed Mara the message. She read it and made a disgusted sound. Your support means so much to the family, she repeated. Not to Lily, to the family. Like you're some kind of external resource they're managing. That's exactly what I am. No, that's what they've made you believe you are. Mara leaned forward, her voice getting that edge it got when she was about to say something I didn't want to hear. Jolie, when's the last time you actually saw medical bills? Receipts, insurance statements. I don't need to see. When's the last time you went to a doctor's appointment with her? Or even heard her mention a specific diagnosis? I opened my mouth to argue, then closed it. The truth was, I'd never seen any of those things. 8 years of funding a medical crisis, and I'd never once been given concrete details about what was actually wrong with Lily. She's private about her health, I said weakly, or she's lying about it. The words hung in the air between us like a challenge. I wanted to defend my sister, my family, the narrative I'd built my entire adult life around. But sitting there, looking at that expensive invitation, thinking about Lily's glowing social media presence and my mother's carefully worded guilt trips, I felt something crack inside my chest. Maybe you don't really know them as well as you think, Mara said quietly. I stared at the invitation again. The gold foil caught the light, gleaming like a warning. The Rosewood Country Club looked like something out of a magazine. Massive floral arrangements, crystal chandeliers, and enough pink and gold decorations to stock a small boutique. I stood in the doorway wearing my one decent dress, a navy blue number. I'd bought 3 years ago for a work event, and felt like I'd wandered into someone else's life. Jolie! Mom rushed over, air-kissing my cheek. Doesn't everything look beautiful? Lily has such exquisite taste. It's certainly elaborate, I said, watching servers in white uniforms circulate with champagne flutes. Oh, don't be such a penny pincher. This is a celebration. Mum grabbed my arm and steered me toward the gift table, which was already overflowing, with boxes wrapped in expensive paper. Lily's been so excited to see you. She keeps saying how grateful she is for everything you've done. I spotted Lily across the room, radiant in a designer maternity dress that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. She was laughing with her friend Gianna, both of them looking like they'd stepped off the pages of a lifestyle blog. She looks healthy, I said. Oh, she's doing so much better. The doctors say the pregnancy has actually improved some of her symptoms. It's like a miracle. A miracle. Right. I made my way over to Lily, who squealed when she saw me and pulled me into a hug that smelled like expensive perfume. Jolie, I'm so glad you're here. Isn't this amazing? She gestured around the room. David insisted we go all out. He said after everything I've been through, I deserve to be celebrated properly. It's beautiful, I said. How are you feeling? Never better, honestly. I keep telling everyone I haven't felt this good in years. It's like my body finally knows what it's supposed to do. Gianna appeared at Lily's elbow, champagne glass in hand. Lily's been glowing for months. We keep joking that she should have gotten pregnant years ago if it was going to make her feel this amazing. They both laughed. I forced a smile. That's wonderful. I'm so happy for you. And we have you to thank for so much of it, Lily said, squeezing my hand. I don't know what we would have done without your help with all the medical stuff. David and I were just saying how we need to find a way to properly thank you. You don't need to... No, really, we've been thinking about it. Maybe a nice dinner somewhere fancy. Or a weekend getaway. We know you never treat yourself to anything nice. The words stung more than they should have. They knew I never treated myself to anything nice because I'd been treating her to everything nice for 8 years. That's very thoughtful, I managed. Oh, speaking of treating yourself, Gianna said, eyeing my dress, we should take you shopping sometime. Get you some new clothes, something more current. Heat flooded my cheeks. This dress is fine. Of course it is, sweetie, Lily said quickly. Gianna just means it might be fun to update your wardrobe a little. You work so hard, you deserve to look as good as you feel. Except I didn't feel good. I felt like I was drowning while everyone else floated by on life rafts I'd helped build. I need to use the restroom, I said. The bathroom was as fancy as the rest of the venue. Marble countertops, gold fixtures, and actual cloth towels. I splashed cold water on my wrists and tried to calm down. This was Lily's day. I could get through this. I was about to leave when I noticed the small wastebasket by the vanity. Something white was sticking out, an envelope with an insurance company logo. Without thinking, I pulled it out. It was an explanation of benefits form. For Lily. Dated last month. I scanned the document, my heart starting to race. Fertility treatments, IVF procedures, hormone injections, all covered by insurance, all showing 0 patient responsibility. 0. My hands shook as I dug deeper into the trash. There was a receipt from a high-end boutique, a spa bill for a pregnancy wellness package, a credit card statement showing charges at restaurants I couldn't afford to look at. Jolie, are you okay in there? Mum's voice came through the door. I shoved the papers back into the trash and opened the door. Fine, just need a minute. The gift opening is about to start. Lily specifically asked for you to be there. I followed her back to the main room, where Lily was now seated in what looked like a throne, surrounded by perfectly wrapped presents. The crowd gathered around her, phones out, ready to document every moment of her happiness. This first one is from my amazing sister, Lily announced, holding up a gift bag I'd spent 2 hours picking out at Target. She's been my rock through everything. Everyone clapped. I smiled and waved like a trained seal, but all I could think about were those papers in the trash. The insurance forms showing 0 cost. The receipts for luxuries I'd been funding without knowing it. My rock. Right. More like her personal ATM. I spent Sunday morning at my kitchen table with 8 years of bank statements spread out like evidence at a crime scene. My laptop was open to the joint savings account I'd set up specifically for Lily's medical expenses. The one I'd been faithfully depositing into every month. The numbers told a story I'd been too blind to see. 2,000 in January, I muttered, tracing the deposits with my finger. 2,000 in February, March, April. But the withdrawals were what made my stomach turn. Large ATM cash withdrawals, transfers to accounts I didn't recognise, online purchases from luxury retailers. My phone rang. Mara. Please tell me you didn't spend all night doing what I think you spent all night doing, she said without preamble. I've been funding her shopping addiction for 8 years. Jesus, how bad is it? I pulled up the calculator on my phone and started adding. Conservatively, $160,000, maybe more. Silence on the other end of the line. Mara, I'm here. I'm just processing. That's like a down payment on a house, Jolie. It was supposed to be a down payment on a house. My house. I laughed, but it came out strangled. Do you know what she bought last month? A $1,000 handbag from the medical fund. Can you prove it? I scrolled through the bank records. Transfer to LH Personal on March 15th. Same day she posted that Instagram story with her new Gucci bag. LH Personal. Lily Hunt Personal. Has to be. I kept scrolling. Look at this. Spa treatments, restaurant bills, shopping sprees, all while I've been eating ramen and driving a car that sounds like it's dying. What are you going to do? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed with a text from Mum. Hope you had fun at the shower yesterday. Lily was so happy you were there. She's been feeling so much better lately. It's wonderful to see her healthy and glowing again. Love you. I read the message to Mara. Healthy and glowing, Mara repeated. After 8 years of chronic illness. I need to talk to Dad. Good idea. He might actually tell you the truth. I found Dad in his garage, tinkering with an old radio like he did every Sunday. He looked up when I walked in, and something in my expression made him set down his screwdriver. You look upset, sweetheart. Dad, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. He wiped his hands on a rag. Okay. How sick is Lily, really? His shoulders sagged. Jolie. I found insurance papers at the shower yesterday. Her treatments are covered. Everything's covered. So where has my money been going? Dad sat down heavily on his workbench stool. I was wondering when you'd figure it out. You knew? I suspected. Your mother handles all the finances, but I'm not blind. Lily's been looking pretty healthy for someone with a chronic condition. And you didn't think to tell me? I tried to bring it up with your mother once. She said Lily was just good at hiding her pain, that some days were better than others. He looked at his hands. It was easier to believe that than to think. Than to think what? Than to think my wife and daughter were lying to you. The words hit me like a physical blow. They've been lying to me. I don't know for sure. Dad, I've seen the bank records. Luxury purchases, cash withdrawals, spa treatments. Well, I've been living like a monk to fund her medical expenses. He was quiet for a long moment. What are you going to do? I pulled out my phone and showed him a photo I'd taken of one of the receipts from the bathroom trash. This is from yesterday. A $300 facial charged to the medical fund. Dad stared at the screen. Oh, Jolie, I've given up everything for her. Everything. And it was all a lie. Maybe you should talk to them. Give them a chance to explain. Explain what? How they've been stealing from me for 8 years? I stood up, anger finally replacing the hurt. How Mum's been guilt-tripping me into funding Lily's lifestyle while I work overtime just to pay my own bills. They love you. No, Dad. They love what I can do for them. There's a difference. I walked toward the door, then turned back. I'm done being the family ATM. That night, I sat at my kitchen table again, but this time I wasn't looking at bank statements. I was writing a note to myself on a piece of paper. If they've stolen my sacrifice, they deserve public humiliation. I folded the paper and put it in my wallet right next to the business card for the women's shelter I'd been meaning to donate to for years. If they wanted to play games with my money, I could play games too, but my games would have consequences. Mara arrived at my apartment Tuesday evening with a bottle of wine and a laptop bag slung over her shoulder. Okay, she said, settling onto my couch. Show me everything. I spread the bank statements across my coffee table again. Here's what I've figured out so far. The medical fund has been getting regular deposits from me, but the withdrawals don't match any legitimate medical expenses. Walk me through it. I pulled up the online banking on my laptop. Look at this pattern. Every month, I deposit $2,000. Within a week, there's usually a large withdrawal or transfer. Mara leaned in, studying the screen. This transfer here, LH personal, that's definitely Lily. Has to be. And look at the timing. I opened Instagram on my phone. March 15th, transfer to LH Personal for $1,200. March 16th, Lily posts a story showing off new designer shoes. Jesus! She's not even trying to hide it. Because she doesn't think I'll ever figure it out. I've been the perfect little enabler for 8 years. Mara scrolled through more transactions. What about these cash withdrawals? Some of these are for $3,000-4,000 at a time. I think those might be going to Mum. She's been the one coordinating all of this, making sure I keep sending money. We need more proof. I pulled out a folder I'd been building. I've been cross-referencing everything. Bank records, social media posts, even old text messages from Mum asking for emergency funds. Show me the texts. I scrolled through my message history with Mom. Here's one from last Christmas. Lily's having a rough patch with her health. Could you send an extra $1,000 for her treatments? She's too proud to ask herself. And what was Lily doing that week? I pulled up her Instagram. Posting from a ski resort in Aspen. With David. With Gianna, girls' trip to recover from the stress of her condition. Mara sat back. This is insane. How did they think they'd never get caught? Because I never questioned anything. I was so busy being the good daughter, the responsible sister, that I never asked for receipts or details. My phone buzzed with a text from Dad. Can we talk? I've been thinking about our conversation. I showed Mara the message. You should call him, she said. He might know more than he let on. I dialed Dad's number. He answered on the first ring. Jolie, I'm glad you texted back. What did you want to talk about? I've been going through some old papers, financial stuff your mother keeps in her desk. His voice was quiet, like he was afraid of being overheard. I found something you should see. What kind of something? Bank statements. For an account I didn't know existed. It's got both your mother's and Lily's names on it. My stomach dropped. Dad? Can you take pictures of those statements and send them to me? I don't know how to do that with my phone. Can you meet me somewhere? Tonight? Your mother's at book club until 9. I could meet you at that diner on 5th Street. I'll be there in 20 minutes. I grabbed my keys and looked at Mara. Want to come see how deep this rabbit hole goes? The diner was nearly empty when we arrived. Dad was already there, sitting in a corner booth, with a manila envelope in front of him. This feels very cloak and dagger, Mara whispered, as we slid into the booth across from him. Dad pushed the envelope toward me. I found these in your mother's filing cabinet. There's an account I never knew about. I opened the envelope and pulled out bank statements for an account titled Family Support Fund. Both Mum's and Lily's names were on it. Look at the deposits, Dad said quietly. I scanned the statements. Regular deposits that matched exactly with the withdrawals from my medical fund account. They've been funneling my money into a separate account, I said. It gets worse, Dad said. Look at what they've been spending it on. The withdrawal descriptions told the whole story. Spa treatments, shopping, restaurants, travel, even a down payment on what looked like a car. A BMW, Mara read over my shoulder. They bought a BMW with your medical fund money. Whose BMW? I asked. Dad looked miserable. Lily's. She said David surprised her with it for her birthday. I stared at the statement. $15,000. Down payment on a luxury car, while I'd been driving my decade-old Honda with a broken air conditioner. There's more, Dad said. He pulled out another paper. I found this in the same file. It was a printed email between Mom and Lily. The subject line read, Jay's monthly contribution. I read it aloud. Make sure you transfer the money within a few days of her deposit. She never checks the account balance, but we don't want to risk her seeing a large balance if she ever logs in. Also, remind David not to post about the car on social media, where she might see it. They've been planning this, Mara said. This whole thing has been orchestrated. My phone buzzed with a text from Gianna to a group chat I was apparently part of but never participated in. Lily, your sister will never dare call you out. Not in front of David and her own parents. She's too much of a people pleaser. You're totally safe. I showed the message to Dad and Mara. Dad put his head in his hands. I'm so sorry, sweetheart. I should have said something sooner. No, I said, folding the bank statements carefully and putting them back in the envelope. You've said enough. I stood up from the booth, my mind crystal clear for the first time in years. What are you going to do? Mara asked. I'm going to prove Gianna wrong. The second baby shower was even more extravagant than the first. Lily had decided one wasn't enough. This one was for David's side of the family, she'd explained in the group text I'd been added to without my consent. I arrived at the country club carrying a beautifully wrapped gift box and wearing my best smile. Inside the box was a get well soon card I'd spent considerable time preparing. Jolie! Lily rushed over, practically glowing in another designer maternity dress. I'm so glad you could make it to round 2. Isn't this exciting? Very exciting, I said, handing her the gift. I brought you something special. Oh, you didn't have to do that. You've already done so much. David appeared at Lily's side, beaming with pride. Jolie, great to see you. Lily's been telling everyone how supportive you've been through her health journey. It's been my pleasure, I said. Family takes care of family, right? Absolutely. We're so grateful for everything you've done to help with her medical expenses. It's made such a difference. I watched his face carefully. He genuinely believed what he was saying. He had no idea his wife had been funding her lifestyle with my money. David, can I ask you something? What exactly has Lily's diagnosis been? I realise I've never gotten the full details. David looked confused. Well, it's been complicated. Right, honey. The doctors have had trouble pinpointing exactly what's been causing all the issues. Oh, you know how it is with chronic conditions, Lily said quickly, linking her arm through David's. Some days are better than others. The important thing is I'm feeling so much better now. That's wonderful. You look incredibly healthy. Thank you. I keep telling everyone I haven't felt this good in years. It's like my body finally knows what it's supposed to do. Mum appeared, with a champagne flute in hand. Jolie, come. We're about to do the toast. The crowd gathered around as Mom clinked her glass with a knife. Everyone, if I could have your attention, please. I just want to say how proud I am of my daughter Lily, Mom began. She's been through so much over the years, and seeing her so happy and healthy now just fills my heart. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. And I have to give special recognition to my other daughter, Jolie, who has been Lily's guardian angel through all of this. The sacrifices she's made, the support she's provided, it's truly extraordinary. People turned to look at me. I waved politely. In fact, Mom continued, I think Lily has something she wants to say about that. Lily took the microphone, her face radiant. Thank you, Mom. I do want to say something about my amazing sister. She looked directly at me. Jolie, you have been my rock. When I was at my sickest, when I didn't know how I was going to afford treatments, you stepped up without hesitation. The fund you set up for my medical expenses literally saved my life. The crowd made appreciative sounds. And now, with this miracle pregnancy, I can finally say that all those treatments worked. The IVF, the hormone therapy, all of it. And I have you to thank for making it possible. She paused for effect. In fact, I joke with David that Jolie has been like our personal ATM. The crowd laughed. David chuckled and shook his head affectionately. But seriously, Lily continued, I don't know what I would have done without your generosity. The medical fund didn't just pay for treatments. It helped me feel beautiful during the worst times. New clothes when I felt terrible about my body, spa days when I needed to relax, dinners out when I was too tired to cook. You made it possible for me to take care of myself in every way. More laughter, more appreciative murmurs. I felt Mara's hand squeeze my shoulder. She positioned herself right behind me. So I want everyone to raise their glasses to my sister Jolie, the most selfless person I know. To Jolie, the crowd chorused, raising their glasses. I stood there smiling, as everyone toasted me, my heart pounding with rage and adrenaline. Lily had just confessed to everything in front of 50 people, and they were applauding her for it. Now or never, Mara whispered in my ear. I stepped forward. Actually, if I could say something. Lily looked surprised, but handed me the microphone. Of course! Everyone wants to hear from the guest of honour's sister. I took the microphone and looked out at the crowd of expectant faces. David was smiling encouragingly. Mum looked proud. Lily was practically glowing with self-satisfaction. Thank you all for being here to celebrate Lily's pregnancy, I began. It really is wonderful to see her looking so healthy and happy, nods and smiles all around. I'm especially thrilled to hear that she's feeling better than she has in years. That's actually perfect timing, because I have an announcement of my own. I reached into my purse and pulled out the wrapped gift box I'd brought. Lily, since you're feeling so much better, I thought this would be the perfect time to give you this special gift. I handed her the box. She looked puzzled, but started unwrapping it with everyone watching. What is it? Someone called out. Lily opened the box and pulled out the Get Well Soon card. Her smile faltered slightly. A Get Well card? David asked, confused. Open it, I said into the microphone. Lily opened the card with trembling fingers. Her face went white as she read what was inside. What does it say? David asked, trying to look over her shoulder. Lily's mouth opened and closed like a fish. No sound came out. Should I read it for everyone? I asked, taking the microphone back. Since we're all family here? Jolie, what are you doing? Mum hissed from the crowd. I cleared my throat and began reading from the card. Dear Lily, congratulations on your miraculous recovery. Since you're feeling so much better, I thought this would be the perfect time to redirect the medical fund to people who actually need medical care. Confused murmurs rippled through the crowd. I've taken the liberty of donating the remaining balance of your medical fund, all $43,000, to the Riverside Women's Shelter in your name. They provide medical care, housing, and support to women in crisis. Gasps echoed through the room. David's face went from confusion to alarm. What medical fund? He asked Lily. What is she talking about? Lily still couldn't speak. She was staring at the donation certificate I'd tucked inside the card. Oh, David, you didn't know? I continued into the microphone. For the past 8 years, I've been contributing $2,000 a month to fund Lily's chronic illness treatments. You know, the illness that required spa treatments, designer handbags, luxury dinners, and apparently a BMW. That's not... Lily finally found her voice. That's not what... Actually, Pammy, it is exactly what happened. I pulled out my phone and held it up. I have bank records showing every deposit I made and every withdrawal you and Mom made, including the secret account you set up called Family Support Fund. The room was dead silent now. David was staring at Lily with growing horror. Lily's been very creative with her medical expenses, I continued. $1,200 for treatment that turned out to be designer shoes. $3,000 for emergency procedures that were actually a spa weekends. $15,000 for specialised equipment that was somehow a down payment on a luxury car. Stop, Mum said, pushing through the crowd. Jolie, stop this right now. Why should I stop, Mom? You've been helping orchestrate this for years. I have the emails between you and Lily discussing how to hide the money transfers from me. David grabbed Lily's arm. Is this true? Have you been lying about being sick? I wasn't lying, Lily's voice cracked. I was sick. I had fertility issues and the treatments were covered by insurance, I interrupted. I found your insurance statements, Lily. 0 patient responsibility. Every single treatment was paid for by your health plan. But the emotional toll cost me $160,000 over 8 years. I looked directly at David. Did you know your wife bought her engagement ring upgrade with money from her medical fund? Or that your honeymoon to Italy was paid for by her chronic illness? David dropped Lily's arm like it was on fire. What the hell, Lily? David, let me explain. Explain what? That you've been lying to me for our entire relationship. That you've been stealing from your sister. I wasn't stealing. She gave me that money. I gave you money for medical expenses, I said into the microphone. Not for shopping sprees and vacations. The crowd was buzzing now. People whispering to each other. Phones coming out to record the drama. You want to know the best part? I continued. Yesterday, Lily's friend Gianna sent a text saying I'd never dare call her out because I'm too much of a people pleaser. That I'm too afraid of confrontation to ever stand up to my own family. I looked directly at Gianna, who was trying to hide behind another guest. Well, Gianna, surprise. I'm not afraid anymore. Mum was crying now. Jolie, please, we can work this out as a family. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. You've been manipulating me for years, making me feel guilty for having boundaries, convincing me that sacrifice was love. But you know what real love is? It's making sure women who are actually in crisis get the help they need. I held up the donation certificate. The Riverside Women's Shelter will use this money for actual medical care, actual housing, actual support for women who aren't pretending to be sick for Instagram likes. You can't do this, Lily screamed. That's my money. Actually, it was my money. And now it's going to help people who deserve it. David was backing away from Lily like she was radioactive. I can't believe this. I can't believe you've been lying to me about everything. David, please. No, just no. He looked around the room at all the staring faces. I need to get out of here. He pushed through the crowd and left. Lily started sobbing. Mom grabbed my arm. Look what you've done. You've ruined everything. No, Mom. I finally told the truth. I handed the microphone back to the stunned event coordinator and walked toward the exit. The room erupted in chaos behind me. Lily crying, Mum screaming, guests talking over each other. Mara caught up with me in the parking lot. Holy shit, Jolie. That was necessary, I finished. My hands were shaking, but for the first time in 8 years, I felt free. My phone started buzzing before I even got home from the country club. By the time I walked through my apartment door, I had 17 missed calls and 43 text messages. Jesus, Mara said, looking at her own phone. I'm getting messages too. This is spreading fast. The first voicemail was from Mum, her voice shaking with rage. Jolie, what you did today was unforgivable. Call me back right now. We need to fix this. The second was from Lily, sobbing. How could you do this to me? At my baby shower. You've ruined everything. David won't even talk to me. I deleted both without listening to the rest. Look at this, Mara said, showing me her phone. Someone posted a video on Facebook. It's already got 200 shares. I watched myself on the small screen, standing at the microphone, calmly explaining how my family had been stealing from me for 8 years. The comments were brutal. Holy shit, the sister is savage. This is why I don't trust family with money. That mum and sister are trash. Good for her for exposing them. My phone rang. Dad. Hi, Dad. Jolie, sweetheart, your mother is beside herself. She's talking about calling a lawyer. A lawyer? For what? She says you stole money that belonged to Lily. I laughed, but it came out harsh. Money that I earned and deposited into an account for Lily's medical expenses. Money that she used to buy designer clothes and spa treatments. I know. I'm not saying she's right. I'm just telling you what she's saying. What are you saying, Dad? Silence for a long moment. I'm saying I'm proud of you for finally standing up for yourself. But I'm also saying this family is falling apart. It was already falling apart. I just stopped pretending it wasn't. Your mother wants me to choose sides. And I can't choose between my daughters. You don't have to choose between your daughters, Dad. You have to choose between right and wrong. He sighed. I'll call you later. I love you. The line went dead. My phone immediately rang again. Unknown number. Hello? Jolie, this is David. I sat down hard on my couch. David, hi. I wanted to thank you. Thank me? For opening my eyes. I've been going through our finances since I left the shower. Credit cards I didn't know about. Purchases I never saw. She's been lying about everything. I'm sorry you had to find out this way. No, you're not. His voice was bitter. And you shouldn't be. I should have figured it out myself. All those times she said she was too sick to work, but somehow had energy to go shopping with Gianna. What are you going to do? I'm staying at my brother's place tonight, maybe longer. I don't know if I can trust her anymore. If she's been lying about being sick, what else has she been lying about? David? The baby might not even be mine. The words hung in the air like a bomb. What do you mean? I found hotel receipts from times when she said she was at medical appointments, but the hotels weren't near any hospitals. I closed my eyes. I'm sorry. Are you? Really? I'm sorry you're hurt. I'm not sorry the truth came out. Fair enough, he paused. For what it's worth, I think what you did took guts. And I think donating that money was the right thing to do. After he hung up, I sat in my quiet apartment, staring at my phone as more messages poured in. Family, friends, distant relatives, even people I barely knew were weighing in on the drama. Mara was scrolling through social media. Oh my God, Jolie, look at this. She showed me a post from Gianna. Some people have no loyalty to family, disgusting behaviour at what should have been a celebration of new life, praying for Lily during this difficult time. The comments under Gianna's post were split. Half were supporting her, calling me cruel and vindictive. The other half were calling out the obvious hypocrisy. She's trying to control the narrative, Mara said. Let her try. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Kiara from the Riverside Women's Shelter. We received your donation today. Could we set up a time to talk? We'd love to thank you properly and show you how the money will be used. I showed the text to Mara. You should go, she said. See what good came out of all this mess. Yeah, I said, typing back a response. I think I will. Another text came in, this one from Mum. The whole family is talking about what you did. You've embarrassed us all. I hope you're happy. I stared at the message for a long moment, then typed back. For the first time in 8 years, I actually am. Then I blocked her number. Mara looked at me with something like awe. How do you feel? Terrified, I admitted, but also free. No regrets. I thought about David's pain, about the family relationships that were probably destroyed forever, about the public humiliation I'd just put my sister through. Ask me again in a week. The Riverside Women's Shelter was nothing like I'd expected. Instead of a grim institutional building, it was a converted Victorian house, with a garden out front and children's artwork taped to the windows. Ciara met me at the front door, a woman about my age with kind eyes and calloused hands. "Jolie, I'm Ciara. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for agreeing to meet with me." She led me through a living room where several women were sitting with their children, watching TV and doing homework. It felt like a real home. "Your donation came at the perfect time," Ciara said as we walked. "We've been trying to expand our medical clinic for months, but we didn't have the funding." "Medical clinic?" "We provide basic health care for women who can't afford it otherwise. Prenatal care, mental health services, addiction counselling. A lot of our residents have been failed by the system." We stopped in front of a room with examination tables and medical equipment. "This is what $43,000 looks like," Ciara said. "We can hire a part-time nurse practitioner, stock medications, and provide care for women who have nowhere else to go." A young woman appeared in the doorway, holding a toddler on her hip. "Ciara? Is this the woman who made the donation?" "This is Jolie. Jolie, meet Sarah." Sarah shifted her son to her other hip and extended her hand. "I wanted to thank you. I've been trying to get prenatal care for weeks, but I don't have insurance. Ciara says the new clinic will be able to help me." "When are you due?" I asked. 3 months. This little guy is going to be a big brother." She smiled at her toddler, who buried his face in her shoulder shyly. "That's wonderful. Congratulations." "I don't know why you donated the money, but I'm grateful. There are a lot of us here who need help." After Sarah left, Ciara showed me the rest of the facility. The kitchen where residents cooked meals together, the computer lab where they worked on job applications, the childcare room where kids played while their mothers attended counselling sessions. "We serve about 60 women and children at any given time," Ciara explained. "Most stay for 6 months to a year while they get back on their feet." "How did you end up running this place?" "I lived here once, about 10 years ago. I was in an abusive marriage, had nowhere to go with my daughter. This place saved our lives." We sat down in her office, which was cramped but organised. "Can I ask you something?" Ciara said. "The donation came with a note saying it was redirected from a family medical fund. That's an unusual situation. It's a long story. I have time." So I told her. About Lily's fake illness, about 8 years of sacrificing my own life, about the baby shower confrontation. Ciara listened without judgment. "That took incredible courage," she said when I finished. "It felt more like rage than courage." Sometimes they're the same thing. Righteous anger can be a powerful force for good. My phone buzzed with a text. "Dad, can we talk? I'm ready to have a real conversation." I showed Ciara the message. "Family drama doesn't end with one confrontation," she said. "But it sounds like someone's ready to start being honest." "I don't know if I'm ready to forgive them." "You don't have to forgive anyone, but you might want to hear what he has to say." I called Dad from the shelter's garden. He answered immediately. "Jolie, thank you for calling me back. What did you want to talk about?" "I left your mother." I sat down hard on a bench. "What?" "I'm staying at a hotel downtown. I told her I couldn't be part of the lies anymore. What you did at that shower made me realise I've been enabling this for years." "Dad, I should have protected you. I should have stood up to your mother when I first suspected what was happening. I'm sorry. Where does this leave us?" "I don't know, but I'd like to find out. Would you be willing to have dinner with me sometime? Just us?" "Yeah," I said. "I'd like that. And Jolie, I'm proud of you. What you did took guts, and that money is going to help a lot of people who actually need it." After I hung up, I sat in the garden for a while, watching children play on a small playground. My phone had been quiet for the first time in days. No angry texts from Mum or Lily. No family drama demanding my immediate attention. Ciara found me there as the sun was setting. "How are you feeling?" she asked. "Different, like I'm finally living my own life instead of funding someone else's." "Any regrets?" I thought about it. About the family relationships that might never recover. About the public humiliation I'd caused. About the years I'd lost to manipulation and guilt. "No," I said finally. "For the first time in my adult life, my money is going where I want it to go. My time belongs to me. My choices are my own. That's what freedom looks like. I smiled, watching a little girl push her brother on a swing. Yeah, it really is. The first thing I noticed when I woke up wasn't the pain in my side where they'd carved out my kidney. It was the silence. My name is Joanna. And 3 days ago, I gave my sister the gift of life. Today, I'm lying in this hospital bed, wondering why the hell I'm alone. Hello? I called out, my voice scratchy from the anaesthesia. The IV drip answered with its steady rhythm. That was it. I fumbled for my phone on the bedside table, nearly ripping out my catheter in the process. 17 missed calls from work. 0 from family. The door creaked open and a nurse peeked in. Oh good, you're awake. How are we feeling? Where is everyone? I asked. She glanced at her chart, then back at me with that practiced hospital smile. Your family stepped out earlier. I'm sure they'll be back soon. But they weren't. I spent the next 6 hours staring at the ceiling, pressing the call button every time I heard footsteps in the hallway. Each time, it was someone else's family rushing to see someone else's loved one. By evening, even the nurses started avoiding eye contact. Joanna? Dr. Martinez appeared in my doorway. We're ready to discharge you. Is someone coming to pick you up? I called my mum. Straight to voicemail. I called my dad. Same thing. I called Yasmin, my baby sister, the one who is probably at home right now with my kidney keeping her alive. The phone rang and rang until her cheerful voicemail kicked in. Hey, it's Yasmin. I'm probably out living my best life, so leave a message. Your ride? Dr. Martinez asked gently. I'll call a cab. The ride home cost me $43 I couldn't afford. The driver helped me to the front door, took one look at my pale face and shaky hands, and asked if I needed him to wait. No, I'm fine, I lied. The house was dark, completely dark. I fumbled with my keys, each movement sending sharp pains through my abdomen. Inside, the silence felt different than the hospital. This was intentional. On the kitchen counter, a single piece of paper with my mother's handwriting, Joanna. We took Yasmin to the new place to help her settle in. There's leftover soup in the fridge. Rest up. Mom. New place? What new place? I opened the fridge. No soup, just expired milk and take-out containers growing science experiments. That's when my phone buzzed. A text from Mom. We have to put her first right now. You understand. You're strong. You'll figure it out. Give us some space to focus on Yasmin's recovery. I read it 3 times before it sank in. Space. To focus on Yasmin's recovery. I was the one who'd been sliced open. I was the one who'd spent months getting tested, getting poked and prodded, signing forms that basically said, if this kills you, that's on you. I was the one who'd used up all my sick days and vacation time for the surgery. But Yasmin needed space to recover. I dragged myself upstairs to my childhood bedroom, every step feeling like my incision might split open. The bills were waiting for me on my desk. Hospital bills, surgeon bills, anesthesiologist bills, lab work bills. A stack so thick I couldn't see the wood underneath. With shaking hands, I opened my laptop and logged into my bank account, checking. 283, savings, monthly £9.5, 12. I clicked on my trust fund account, the one my grandmother had set up for me before she died. The one that was supposed to cover my medical expenses, my future, my security. Balance. 0.02. Last transaction, wire transfer, $847,000. 3 days ago. The day of my surgery. I stared at the screen until the numbers blurred. Then I called the bank. I'm sorry, Miss Johnson, but that account was closed by the primary account holder. Your father authorised the transfer. Transfer to where? I can't disclose that information. You'd need to speak with him directly. I hung up and immediately called Dad. The number you have dialed is no longer in service. Mum's phone. The number you have dialed is no longer in service. Yasmin's phone. The number you have dialed is no longer in service. I sat there in my childhood bedroom, surrounded by medical bills that would bankrupt me, staring at a bank account that had been drained while I was unconscious on an operating table. That's when I opened Instagram. Yasmin's latest post was a video tour of a gorgeous downtown condo, granite countertops, floor-to-ceiling windows, a kitchen that cost more than most people's cars. Thanks to my amazing family for making this dream come true, she captioned it. New kidney, new home, new life. So blessed Nachaknai, family first, living my best life. The comments were full of heart emojis and congratulations. Not a single mention of where that kidney came from. I screenshot everything. Every single post, every comment, every detail of that condo that my trust fund had apparently bought. Then I closed my laptop and lay back on my childhood bed, staring at the glow-in-the-dark stars I'd stuck to the ceiling when I was 12. My job was done, Dad had said when I'd signed the consent forms. Your job is to save your sister. Well, mission accomplished. Yasmin was saved, set up for life, and I was disposable. But as I lay there, something cold and sharp settled in my chest, right next to where they'd cracked my ribs to get to my kidney. They thought my job was done. They had no idea it was just beginning. The next morning, I woke up to my phone buzzing non-stop. For a split second, I thought maybe my family had come to their senses. It was my boss. "Joanna, where the hell are you? The Morrison account is falling apart and..." "I'm recovering from major surgery," I croaked. "I told you I'd need at least 2 weeks. 2 weeks. We can't afford 2 weeks. Sarah quit yesterday and we're drowning here." I hung up and immediately got a text. "If you're not in by Monday, don't bother coming back." Great. So now I was jobless too. I spent the weekend calling every number I could find for my parents. Their work phones, their friends, even my dad's golf buddy. Nothing. It was like they'd vanished into thin air. But Yasmin? She was everywhere online. Instagram stories of her unpacking designer furniture, TikToks of her showing off the condo's amenities, a Facebook live stream where she gave a room tour to hundreds of viewers. "This is my healing space," she said, spinning around in what looked like $1,000 dress. "After everything I've been through, I deserve a little luxury, you know." I threw my phone across the room. Monday morning, I dragged myself to work anyway. Maybe I could reason with them, explain the situation. "Joanna!" My co-worker Marcus looked shocked. "You look terrible. Shouldn't you be resting?" "Can't afford to rest," I muttered, settling gingerly into my chair. By lunch, I was dizzy and nauseous. By 3 p.m, I was in the bathroom, throwing up from the pain medication on an empty stomach. I couldn't afford groceries. That's when Sophia found me. "Jesus Christ, Joe!" She knelt beside me on the bathroom floor. "What are you doing here?" Sophia and I had been best friends since college. She was in her final year of law school, clerking at a firm downtown. If anyone could help me make sense of this nightmare, it was her. "They took everything," I whispered. "The trust fund, the house, everything. And then they just disappeared." "Who took everything?" "My parents. They cleaned out my trust fund while I was unconscious." Sophia's face went white. "That's not possible. Trust funds have protections. Tell that to my bank account." She helped me to my feet. "Come on. You're coming home with me." "I can't leave work." "Yes, you can. You just had major surgery. You look like death. And your family just committed what sounds like financial fraud. Work can kiss my arse." An hour later, I was on Sophia's couch with a cup of tea and a stack of legal documents she'd printed out. "Okay, walk me through everything," she said, pulling out a yellow legal pad. "From the beginning." I told her about the surgery, the empty house, the drained account. She took notes, asking questions, her expression getting darker with each detail. "Joe, this is seriously messed up. Trust funds aren't just regular bank accounts. There are specific rules about how the money can be used." "My dad was the trustee. Doesn't that mean he can do whatever he wants?" "Hell no. Being a trustee means you have a fiduciary duty to act in the beneficiary's best interest. That's you, not your sister." She grabbed her laptop and started typing furiously. "What are you doing?" "Research. If your grandmother set up this trust for your medical expenses and future security, there should be documentation. Legal documents that spell out exactly what the money can and can't be used for." My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Stop calling our friends. You're embarrassing yourself. Move on." "Dad." I showed Sophia the message. "Are you kidding me?" She grabbed my phone. "He's texting you from a burner phone like some kind of criminal. Maybe I should just let it go. Maybe they're right and I'm being..." "Don't you dare!" Sophia's voice was sharp. "Don't you dare let them gaslight you into thinking this is normal. You gave your sister a kidney and they robbed you blind. That's not family dynamics." That's theft. She kept typing, pulling up legal databases and court records. Here, she said, turning the laptop toward me. Johnson Family Trust, established 2018. Look at this language. I squinted at the legal text. Most of it was gibberish, but one section was highlighted in yellow. Funds shall be used exclusively for the health, education and welfare of the beneficiary, Joanna Marie Johnson. Under no circumstances shall trust assets be distributed to any other party without explicit written consent from the beneficiary. Sophia, what does this mean? It means they didn't just steal from you. They committed fraud, criminal fraud. My hands started shaking. Are you sure? I'm sure. And there's more. She scrolled down. Look at this clause about trustee duties. Your father violated every single one of them. The room felt like it was spinning. So what do I do? We document everything. Every transaction, every social media post, every text message. We build a case. A case for what? Sophia looked me straight in the eye. To get your money back. And to make sure they face consequences for what they did to you. Just then her phone rang. She glanced at the caller ID and frowned. That's weird. It's Davis Ford. Who's Davis Ford? He's a lawyer at the firm where I'm clerking. But why would he be calling me? She answered. Hello, Mr. Ford. Yes, she's right here. What? How did you... Okay, yes, we'll be right there. She hung up and stared at me. Joe, that was your grandmother's lawyer. He says he's been trying to reach you for weeks. He has documents about your trust fund that he needs to show you immediately. What kind of documents? He wouldn't say over the phone, but Joe? Her voice was deadly serious. He said to tell you that what your parents did wasn't just unethical, it was a felony. Davis Ford's office looked like something out of a legal drama. Dark wood panelling, leather-bound books, and the smell of old money. He was probably in his late 30s, with greying temples and the kind of calm demeanour that probably cost $500 an hour. Miss Johnson, he said, standing as Sophia and I walked in, I'm so sorry for your loss. My loss? Your grandmother, she was a remarkable woman, and I'm sorry for what you've been through recently. His eyes flicked to my still pale complexion. Please, sit. Sophia squeezed my hand as we settled into the leather chairs across from his massive desk. Mr. Ford, how did you know to call Sophia? I asked. I've been trying to reach you for 3 weeks. Your parents told me you were indisposed and would contact me when you were ready. When I saw the trust fund transactions, I knew something was wrong. I made some calls and found out Sophia was your emergency contact at the hospital. He opened a thick file folder. Your grandmother came to me 6 months before she died. She was very specific about her wishes regarding your trust fund. What kind of specific? Davis pulled out a document and slid it across the desk. She added what we call a protection clause after she learned about your sister's condition. She was worried your parents might try to use your medical fund for Yasmin's expenses. I stared at the paper. My grandmother's signature was at the bottom along with 2 witnesses. She predicted this. She was concerned about the family dynamics, yes. She specifically stated that under no circumstances should trust funds be used for anyone other than you. She even included language about what would happen if someone violated these terms. Sophia leaned forward. What kind of language? Criminal prosecution. Your grandmother built in automatic triggers. If the trust was misused, it would generate an immediate report to both the State Attorney General and the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit. My mouth went dry. The FBI? Trust fund fraud involving amounts over $500,000 is a federal crime. Your trust was worth $847,000. Was? Davis's expression darkened. As of last week, the balance is 0. But here's what your parents don't know. He pulled out another document. Your grandmother also set up what's called a shadow account. Every transaction from the main trust is automatically mirrored and documented in a separate, untouchable account. I don't understand. Think of it as a backup drive for your trust fund. Every withdrawal, every transfer, every penny that moved is recorded with timestamps, IP addresses, and digital signatures. Your parents thought they were covering their tracks, but they actually created a perfect evidence trail. Sophia was scribbling notes furiously. So we can prove they stole the money. We can prove exactly when, how, and where they stole it. But there's more. Davis opened his laptop and turned it toward us. I've been monitoring the account they transferred the money to. Want to guess what they did with it? The screen showed a real estate transaction. Purchase price, $847,000. Property address, 1247 Harbourview Drive, Unit 12A. That's Yasmin's condo, I whispered. Purchased 3 days ago. Same day as your surgery. Same day they drained your trust fund. They bought it while I was unconscious. The paperwork was signed at 2:47 p.m. According to your medical records, you were in surgery from 1:30 to 4:15 p.m. Sophia slammed her pen down. Those absolute bastards! Davis pulled out more documents. Bank statements, wire transfer records, the real estate contract, everything we need for a criminal case. Criminal case? Miss Johnson, your parents committed multiple felonies, trust fund fraud, wire fraud, potentially identity theft if they forged any documents. The district attorney would love a case this clean-cut. My hands were shaking again. What happens to them? Federal prison, most likely. 5 to 10 years for this amount of money, plus full restitution, which means they'd have to sell the condo and pay you back every penny, plus interest and damages. And Yasmin? Davis hesitated. If she knew the money was stolen, she could be charged as an accessory. If she didn't know, she'd just lose the condo. She knew, I said quietly. She had to know. You don't just get handed an $800,000 condo without asking questions. Then she's looking at criminal charges too. Sophia looked up from her notes. What do we do next? We have 2 options, Davis said. We can file a civil lawsuit to recover the money, which could take years and might not result in criminal charges. Or we can go straight to the authorities with this evidence and let them handle it. What would you recommend? Honestly, both. File criminal charges first, then pursue civil damages. Your family committed serious crimes and they need to face consequences. Just then my phone buzzed. A text from Yasmin. Hey sis, hope you're feeling better. Want to come to my housewarming party this weekend? I'd love to show you the new place. I showed the message to Davis and Sophia. She's inviting me to a party at the condo they bought with my stolen money. The audacity is actually helpful, Davis said. It shows consciousness of guilt. She knows you're aware of the condo and she's trying to normalise the situation. Sophia grinned. Joe, you should go. Are you insane? Think about it. Everyone will be there. Your parents, Yasmin, probably half the family. All in one place, celebrating their crime with your money. Davis nodded slowly. It would be the perfect opportunity to serve them with criminal charges. Very public, very humiliating. You want me to have them arrested at the party. I want you to get justice, Sophia said. They stole your future while you were saving your sister's life. They deserve whatever's coming to them. I stared at Yasmin's text message. All those heart emojis like nothing had happened. Like I hadn't sacrificed my body and my financial security for her. Mr. Ford, how long would it take to get the criminal charges filed? With this evidence, I could have warrants issued by Friday. And they'd arrest them at the party? If that's what you want. Though I should warn you, once we start this process, there's no going back. Your family will never forgive you. I looked at the real estate contract on his desk. My trust fund, my grandmother's gift to me, turned into granite countertops and harbour views for the sister who couldn't even be bothered to visit me in the hospital. Mr. Ford? Yes? They already made their choice. Now I'm making mine. I pulled out my phone and typed back to Yasmin. Wouldn't miss it for the world. Can't wait to see what you've done with the place. Davis smiled. I'll start preparing the paperwork. But as I hit send, something nagged at me. I scrolled through the bank documents Davis had shown us, looking for something I'd missed. There. A second transfer, smaller but still significant. $25,000 sent to an account I didn't recognise. Mr. Ford, what's this transaction? He looked at the screen and frowned. I'm not sure. Let me trace that account number. After a few minutes of typing, his expression changed. Miss Johnson, that money went to someone named Brian Graham. Does that name mean anything to you? My blood turned to ice. That's Yasmin's boyfriend. Well, Davis said grimly, it looks like your sister wasn't the only one who benefited from your stolen trust fund. Saturday evening, I stood outside Yasmin's new condo building, wearing the only dress that still fit over my surgical bandages. Sophia squeezed my arm. You sure you're ready for this? No, but let's do it anyway. The lobby was all marble and gold fixtures, the kind of place I dreamed of living in someday, back when I thought my trust fund would help me buy my own future. Joanna! Yasmin's voice echoed across the lobby as the elevator doors opened. She looked radiant in a designer cocktail dress, her colour back, her energy restored. My kidney was doing its job. She rushed over and hugged me, and I had to bite my tongue to keep from wincing as she pressed against my incision. I'm so glad you came. You look tired, but that's expected, right? Come on, everyone's dying to see you. The elevator ride to the 12th floor felt eternal. Yasmin chattered about the building's amenities, the view, the neighbours, all bought with my money. Wait until you see the kitchen, she gushed. The granite is imported from Italy. The condo was packed with people I recognised from family gatherings, cousins, family friends, my parents' co-workers, everyone holding champagne glasses, admiring the floor-to-ceiling windows and the custom furniture. And there were my parents. Mum was by the kitchen island laughing with my Aunt Sarah. Dad stood near the balcony, gesturing at the harbour view while talking to his golf buddies. They both looked relaxed, happy, like they hadn't just destroyed their daughter's life. Joanna! Mum's voice was bright, performative. She rushed over with her arms outstretched. Sweetheart, you made it! The hug felt like a betrayal. Her perfume was the same one she'd worn when she used to comfort me after nightmares. How are you feeling, honey? You look a little pale. I'm fine, Mom. Good, good. We were so worried about you, but we knew you'd bounce back. You always do. Dad appeared beside her, clapping me on the shoulder. There's our hero. How's the recovery going? Expensive, I said. He laughed like I'd made a joke. Well, that's what insurance is for, right? Right. Insurance. Brian materialised next to Yasmin, sliding his arm around her waist. He was tall, good-looking, in that generic way that screamed, "Trust fund, baby," even though his trust fund was apparently mine. Brian. This is my sister Joanna, Yasmin said. The one I told you about. The kidney donor. He extended his hand with a grin. Man, what you did for Yasmin is incredible. Really incredible. Thanks. Nice place you guys have here. Thanks. We got really lucky with the timing. Everything just fell into place, you know? I bet it did. Sophia appeared at my elbow with 2 glasses of champagne. Beautiful condo, she said to Yasmin. You must have saved up for years to afford something like this. Yasmin's smile flickered for just a second. Well, family helped out. We're very blessed. Family, Sophia repeated. How generous of them. I watched my parents across the room. Dad was still talking about the view, gesturing broadly. Mum was showing off the kitchen to a group of women, opening cabinets to display the expensive dishes. Yasmin, I said, can I see the master bedroom? I'd love to get the full tour. Of course, come on. She led me down a hallway lined with family photos. Pictures of her and Brian on vacation, at restaurants, at events. Pictures of my parents at the condo signing, all smiles. Not a single photo included me. The master bedroom was huge, with a king-size bed and another set of floor-to-ceiling windows. Isn't it perfect? Yasmin spun around like a child. I wake up every morning and can't believe this is my life. It's amazing, really amazing. How did you manage to afford all this? Her smile tightened. I told you family helped. Right, but I mean, this place had to cost what? 800,000? That's a lot of help. Joanna, why are you being weird about this? I'm not being weird. I'm just curious how my little sister suddenly has almost $1 million. Yasmin's face went pale. I don't know what you're implying, but... I'm not implying anything. I'm asking directly. Where did the money come from? Mum and Dad helped with the down payment, and I got a mortgage for the rest. What down payment? The property records show it was purchased in cash? How do you know that? Public records, Yasmin. Anyone can look them up. She backed toward the door. I think we should rejoin the party. In a minute. I have one more question. Joanna, you're making me uncomfortable. Why did Brian get $25,000 transferred to his account the same day you bought this place? The colour drained completely from her face. I don't know what you're talking about. Bank records don't lie, Yasmin. You've been investigating us. I've been trying to figure out why my trust fund is empty. She stared at me for a long moment, then her expression hardened. You know what? Fine. Yes, Mom and Dad used your trust fund, but you know what else? You owed us. You owed me. I owed you? Do you have any idea what it's like being the sick kid your whole life? Watching everyone worry about you, take care of you, sacrifice for you, and then your healthy sister gets a trust fund while you get nothing. Yasmin, that trust fund was for my medical expenses. And what did you use it for? Nothing. You were healthy, you had a job, you didn't need it. I was dying, Joanna, dying. And you want to begrudge me a place to recover? I gave you my kidney. And we gave you purpose. Your whole life you've been the responsible one, the caretaker, the one who fixes everything. Well, congratulations, you fixed me. Mission accomplished. I stared at my sister, this person I'd literally given part of my body to save, and felt something cold settle in my chest. You planned this? We did what we had to do. While I was unconscious on the operating table, you were buying a condo with my money. Your money? Yasmin laughed, but it sounded forced. That money came from Grandma, and Grandma loved all of us. She would have wanted it used to save my life. She set up that trust specifically for me. Details. From the living room, I heard Dad's voice getting louder. And the best part is the whole thing was completely legal. Trust fund transfers happen all the time in families. I walked back toward the party, Yasmin trailing behind me. Joanna, where are you going? I found my parents by the kitchen, still holding court with their friends. Dad, I said loudly enough for everyone to hear, can you explain to everyone how trust fund transfers work? I'm really curious about the legal process. The room went quiet. Dad's face flushed red. Joanna, this isn't the time. No, I think it's the perfect time. Everyone's here. Everyone's celebrating. Let's talk about how you transferred $800,000 from my trust fund while I was having surgery to save Yasmin's life. Mum dropped her champagne glass. It shattered on the marble floor. Joanna, she hissed. Stop it. Stop what? Telling the truth? That's when I heard it. Footsteps in the hallway, heavy, official footsteps, and then a knock on the door that made everyone freeze. Police. We have a warrant. The knock came again, louder this time. Police! Open the door! The room went dead silent. 30 people holding champagne glasses, all staring at the front door like it might explode. Dad's face had gone from red to grey. What the hell? I'll get it, Yasmin said, but her voice was shaking. No. Mum grabbed her arm. Don't answer it. Mum, they're not going to just leave. The knocking turned to pounding. This is Detective Joseph with Metro PD. We have a warrant. Open the door now, or we'll open it for you. Brian stepped forward. I'll handle this. He walked to the door and opened it slowly. 3 officers stood in the hallway. The woman in front was tall, black, with the kind of presence that made everyone in the room take a step back. Detective Emerson Joseph, she said, flashing her badge. We're looking for Reuben Johnson, Marlo Johnson, and Yasmin Johnson. That's us, Dad said weakly. We have warrants for your arrest on charges of trust fund fraud, wire fraud, and conspiracy to commit financial fraud. The champagne glass slipped from Mom's hand and shattered on the floor. Someone in the crowd gasped. There must be some mistake, Dad said. We haven't done anything wrong. Sir, please step forward and place your hands behind your back. Wait, Yasmin pushed past Brian. What is this about? Detective Joseph pulled out a folder. The fraudulent transfer of $847,000 from a protected trust fund belonging to Joanna Johnson. You're all under arrest. Joanna? Mum turned to look at me, her eyes wide with shock and betrayal. You called the police on us. I didn't answer. I couldn't. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might burst. Mom, hands behind your back, one of the other officers said to Mum. This is insane, Yasmin screamed. That money was used for medical expenses, for my recovery. The trust fund was legally designated for Miss Joanna Johnson's medical expenses only, Detective Joseph said calmly. Using it for any other purpose constitutes fraud. Dad was being handcuffed now. Joanna, how could you do this to your family? How could I? The words came out louder than I intended. How could you steal my money while I was unconscious, giving Yasmin my kidney? The room erupted in whispers. Family friends backing toward the door. pulling out phones to record, looking between me and my parents like they were watching a car crash. "You gave us no choice," Mum said as the officer cuffed her. Yasmin needed my kidney, which I gave her. She didn't need my trust fund." "That trust fund was family money." "No, it was my money. Grandma set it up specifically for me." Brian stepped forward. "Officers, there's been a misunderstanding. I can explain." "Brian Graham," Detective Joseph looked at her notes. "You're also under arrest for receiving stolen property and conspiracy to commit fraud." "What? No, I didn't know. The $25,000 transferred to your account suggests otherwise." Brian's face went white. "Yasmin, you said that money was from your parents' savings." "It was!" Yasmin was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks. "It was family money. It was stolen money," Detective Joseph said. "And you all knew it." As they led my parents toward the door, Dad turned back to me. "You've destroyed this family, Joanna. I hope you're happy." "I didn't destroy anything. You did that when you decided I was disposable." The party guests were filing out now, some stopping to stare, others hurrying past like they might catch whatever disease had infected our family. Sophia appeared at my side. "Joe, you okay?" "I don't know." Aunt Sarah stopped in front of me. "Joanna, honey, what's really going on here?" "They stole my trust fund while I was having surgery. $800,000, they used it to buy this condo." Her mouth fell open. "While you were having surgery?" "The same day. While I was giving Yasmin my kidney." "Oh my God!" She looked around the expensive condo, then back at me. "Oh my God, Joanna!" One by one, the remaining guests approached me. Some to apologize, some to ask questions, some just to stare. The story was spreading through the room like wildfire. "Is it true they took your medical fund? While you were in surgery? After you gave her your kidney?" I answered their questions mechanically, watching through the floor-to-ceiling windows as my parents and sister were loaded into police cars 12 floors below. Detective Joseph approached me as the last of the guests filed out. "Miss Johnson, we'll need you to come to the station tomorrow to give a formal statement, okay? I have to ask, are you sure you want to proceed with this? Once we file charges, there's no going back." I looked around the empty condo. The granite countertops, the designer furniture, the harbour view, all of it bought with money that was supposed to secure my future. "I'm sure. Even knowing your family will likely face prison time?" "They made their choice when they decided to rob me blind," she nodded. "We'll be in touch." After everyone left, it was just me, Sophia and Brian in the condo. He was sitting on the expensive couch, head in his hands. "I really didn't know," he said quietly. "Yasmin told me her parents were helping with the down payment. I thought the money in my account was for wedding expenses." "Wedding expenses?" "We were going to get married next month. She said her parents wanted to help pay for the venue." Sophia snorted. "With stolen money?" "I swear I didn't know it was stolen. If I had known..." He looked up at me. "I'm sorry, Joanna. I'm really sorry." "Sorry doesn't give me my kidney back, or my trust fund. What happens now?" "Now you all face the consequences." He stood up slowly. "I need to call a lawyer." "Yeah, you do." After he left, Sophia and I stood alone in the condo that my money had bought. "How do you feel?" she asked. "Empty." "That's normal. Justice doesn't always feel like victory." I walked to the window and looked out at the harbour. The view really was beautiful. In another life, maybe I would have been able to afford a place like this with my trust fund. Maybe I would have recovered from my surgery in comfort instead of worrying about medical bills. "Sophia?" "Yeah." "Do you think I did the right thing?" She was quiet for a long moment. "I think you did the only thing you could do. They betrayed you in the worst possible way, and they needed to face consequences. But they're my family." "Family doesn't steal from you while you're unconscious on an operating table." My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "This isn't over. You'll regret this." "Mum." I showed it to Sophia. "Well," she said, "I guess we know how they really feel about you." I deleted the message and put my phone away. "Come on," Sophia said. "Let's get out of here." As we waited for the elevator, I took one last look at the condo. Tomorrow it would probably be seized as evidence. All that expensive furniture, those imported granite countertops, that $1 million view, none of it would matter. But as the elevator doors closed, I realised something had changed inside me. The scared, hurt daughter who'd woken up alone in that hospital bed was gone. What was left was someone who'd learned that sometimes the only way to get justice is to take it yourself. The next morning, I sat in Detective Joseph's office at the police station, signing statement after statement. My hand cramped from writing, but I kept going. Every detail mattered. "Miss Johnson, I have to ask about your family's wealth manager," Detective Joseph said, sliding another form across the desk. "Mohammed Duncan. Did you ever interact with him directly?" "A few times. He handled my grandmother's estate and set up the trust fund. We'd like you to wear a wire when you meet with him." I looked up from the paperwork. "What?" "Your lawyer, Davis Ford, thinks Duncan might have helped facilitate the fraud. If he did, we need evidence." "You want me to trick him into confessing?" "We want you to ask questions, let him talk. People like Duncan usually can't help themselves when they think they're smarter than everyone else." Sophia squeezed my shoulder. "You don't have to do this, Joe. Actually, I want to. If he helped them steal my money, he should go down too." An hour later, I was sitting in Mohammed Duncan's office with a wire taped to my chest and a recording device in my purse. His office was even fancier than Davis Ford's, all glass and chrome and expensive art. "Joanna!" Mohammed stood up from behind his massive desk, arms outstretched like we were old friends. "I heard about the unfortunate situation with your family. Terrible business." "Yeah, it's been rough. Please, sit. Can I get you coffee? Water?" "I'm fine, thanks." I settled into the chair across from his desk. "Mohammed, I need to understand what happened with my trust fund." His smile flickered. "Well, as I understand it, your parents made some financial decisions during a difficult time. They stole $800,000 while I was unconscious." "Now, Joanna, that's a very harsh way to put it. Family finances can be complicated. Did you help them transfer the money?" Mohammed's hands went to his tie, adjusting it nervously. "I provided financial services as requested by the account holders. My father wasn't supposed to be able to touch that money without my consent. Trust fund management involves many complex regulations. It's a yes or no question, Mohammed. Did you help my parents steal my money?" He stood up and walked to the window, his back to me. "Joanna, your sister was dying. Your parents were desperate. Sometimes we have to make difficult choices to help families in crisis. So that's a yes." "I facilitated a transfer of funds to address a medical emergency." "By medical emergency, you mean buying a luxury condo?" He turned back to me, and I could see sweat beading on his forehead. "The real estate purchase was presented to me as a recovery facility for Yasmin. A recovery facility that happens to be $1 million condo with harbour views. I don't ask questions about my clients' real estate choices. But you do ask questions about trust fund restrictions, right? You do know the law." Mohammed sat back down, loosening his tie. "Joanna, what exactly are you trying to accomplish here?" "I'm trying to understand how a professional wealth manager helped my family commit felony fraud. I resent that accusation. Then explain to me how you justified transferring money from a restricted trust fund without the beneficiary's consent. Your father had power of attorney. For medical decisions, not financial ones. And only while I was incapacitated. The surgery qualified as incapacitation. The surgery was 3 hours, Mohammed. The money transfer happened while I was unconscious, but the condo purchase happened 2 days later. I was awake and alert, and never gave consent." He was sweating openly now. "Look, Joanna, mistakes were made, but your family was in crisis, and I was trying to help. By breaking the law, by providing financial solutions during a difficult time. Did my parents pay you extra to ignore the trust fund restrictions?" Mohammed's face went pale. "I don't know what you're implying." "I'm not implying anything. I'm asking directly. Did you receive additional compensation for facilitating the illegal transfer? This conversation is over." He stood up abruptly. "I think you should leave." "Mohammed, the police are going to ask you these same questions, probably with a warrant. Are you threatening me? I'm giving you a chance to tell the truth. Did my parents pay you to help them steal my money?" He walked to his office door and opened it. "I said this conversation is over." I stood up slowly, making sure the recording device in my purse was still running. "You know what, Mohammed? You're right. This conversation is over. But the investigation is just getting started. As I walked past him toward the door, he grabbed my arm. "Joanna, wait! Look! Maybe we can work something out. Your parents made some poor choices, but they were trying to save Yasmin's life. Surely you can understand that. Let go of my arm. What if I could help you recover some of the money? Not all of it, but enough to cover your medical expenses. Are you offering me a bribe? I'm offering you a solution, a way to help your family without destroying them." I pulled my arm free. My family destroyed themselves when they decided to rob me blind, and you helped them do it. "Joanna, please." "How much did they pay you, Mohammed?" "It wasn't about money. Everything's about money with you people. How much?" He closed the office door and leaned against it. 50,000. They paid me 50,000 to expedite the transfer and overlook the restrictions. $50,000 to help them steal from me. It wasn't supposed to be stealing. They said you'd agreed to help Yasmin, that it was all family money anyway. And you believed them. I wanted to believe them. Your sister was dying, Joanna. What was I supposed to do? Follow the law, honour the trust fund restrictions, protect the beneficiary. I made a mistake. You committed a crime, multiple crimes. Mohammed slumped against the door. What do you want from me? I want you to tell the police exactly what you just told me. I want you to admit that you took a bribe to help my parents steal my money. And if I don't, then you'll find out what happens when the FBI investigates financial crimes. He was quiet for a long moment, staring at the floor. They'll arrest me. Probably. I'll lose my license, my business, everything. You should have thought about that before you took their money. Joanna, please. I have a family too. Kids in college, a mortgage. So did I. I had a future, Mohammed. I had security, and you helped them take it away from me. He opened the door slowly. I need to call my lawyer. Yeah, you do. As I walked out of his office, I heard him pick up his phone. Davis, it's Mohammed Duncan. I need help. I think I'm about to be arrested. Outside in the parking lot, Sophia was waiting in her car. How did it go? She asked as I got in. He confessed to everything. Took a $50,000 bribe to help them steal my money. Jesus, did you get it on tape? I patted my purse. Every word. So what now? Now we give this to Detective Joseph and watch Mohammed's world fall apart too. As we drove away, I saw Mohammed through his office window, pacing back and forth while talking on the phone. Another life about to be destroyed by the choices people made when they thought they could get away with stealing from me. Joe? Sophia said quietly. Yeah? Are you okay with all this? With what's happening to everyone? I thought about it for a moment. You know what? I am. They all made choices. They all decided that stealing from me was acceptable. Now they get to live with the consequences. Even if it destroys them. They tried to destroy me first. The only difference is I fought back. My phone buzzed. A text from Davis Ford. Criminal charges filed against all 4 defendants. Trial date set for next month. Justice is coming. I showed the message to Sophia. How does it feel? She asked. Like the beginning of the end. The courthouse was packed. I hadn't expected so many people, but apparently woman has family arrested after kidney donation was the kind of story that drew crowds. I sat in the front row with Sophia and Davis Ford, watching as my parents, Yasmin, Brian and Mohammed, were led in wearing orange jumpsuits. None of them looked at me. All rise for the Honourable Judge Patricia Williams. The judge was a stern-looking woman in her 60s who clearly had no patience for nonsense. We're here today for the arraignment of Reuben Johnson, Marlo Johnson, Yasmin Johnson, Brian Graham and Mohammed Duncan on charges of trust fund fraud, wire fraud, conspiracy and bribery. How do the defendants plead? Dad's lawyer stood up first. Not guilty, Your Honour. One by one, they all pled not guilty. Even Mohammed, despite his recorded confession. Your Honour, the prosecutor said, the state requests that bail be denied. These defendants engaged in a calculated scheme to defraud the victim of nearly $1 million while she was incapacitated during surgery. That's not true, Yasmin shouted from the defendant's table. She's my sister. I was dying. Miss Johnson, you will remain silent or be held in contempt, Judge Williams said sharply. Yasmin's lawyer pulled her back into her seat, whispering urgently in her ear. Your Honour, Dad's lawyer said, my clients are pillars of the community with no prior criminal record. They pose no flight risk. Pillars of the community don't typically steal from their own children, Judge Williams replied dryly. Bail is set at $500,000 each, I heard Mum gasp. None of them had that kind of money, not anymore. Your Honour, Mohammed's lawyer stood up, my client is cooperating fully with the investigation and has agreed to testify for the prosecution. Mr. Duncan, is this true? Mohammed stood up slowly. Yes, Your Honour. I want to make this right. Judge Williams looked at him for a long moment. Bail for Mr. Duncan is reduced to $50,000. Everyone else remains at $500,000. As the defendants were led away, Yasmin finally looked at me. Her eyes were red from crying, her face pale and drawn. She mouthed something I couldn't make out. What did she say? Sophia asked. I don't know. I don't care. Outside the courthouse, reporters surrounded us. Miss Johnson, how does it feel to have your family arrested? Do you regret pressing charges? Was there any way this could have been resolved without criminal prosecution? Davis Ford stepped forward. My client has no comment at this time, but I stopped walking. Actually, I do have something to say. Davis looked alarmed. Joanna. 3 weeks ago, I gave my sister my kidney to save her life. While I was unconscious on the operating table, my parents stole my entire trust fund to buy her a luxury condo. They left me with crushing medical debt and no way to pay for my recovery. The cameras were rolling, microphones thrust in my face. When I confronted them, they told me my job was done, that I should be grateful I could help save Yasmin's life. They treated me like I was disposable. So, you had them arrested? I had criminals arrested. The fact that they're my family doesn't give them the right to steal from me. What do you say to people who think you went too far? I say they don't understand what it's like to sacrifice your body for someone you love, only to have them steal your future while you're unconscious and vulnerable. Do you have any message for your family? I looked directly into the camera. Actions have consequences. You taught me that when I was a child. Now you get to learn it as adults. That night, the story was everywhere. Local news, national news, social media. The kidney betrayal was trending on Twitter. The comments were brutal. Imagine stealing from your daughter while she's saving your other daughter's life. Disgusting. The parents deserve everything they get. What kind of monsters do this? That sister is a piece of work. Takes the kidney and the money. Unbelievable. But there were other comments too. She went too far. They're still family. Having your parents arrested is extreme. There had to be another way. She destroyed her whole family over money. Sad. I was reading the comments on my phone when it rang. Unknown number. Hello? Joanna, it's me. Yasmin's voice was barely a whisper. How are you calling me? They gave me one phone call. I used it to call you. Why? Because I need you to drop the charges. I almost hung up. Are you insane? Joanna, please. I'm sick. Really sick. The stress is affecting my kidney function. Your kidney function. That's not my problem anymore. It is your kidney. If something happens to me, your sacrifice was for nothing. My sacrifice was for nothing the moment you decided to steal from me. We didn't steal. You bought a condo with my money while I was giving you my organ. That's stealing, Yasmin. We were desperate. I was dying. And now you're alive. Congratulations. Enjoy prison. Joanna, wait, please. What if I give you the condo? What if I sign it over to you right now? The condo's been seized as evidence. It's not yours to give anymore. Then what do you want? What will it take for you to drop this? I was quiet for a long moment. There's nothing you can give me that would undo what you did. I'm your sister. No, you're not. My sister wouldn't have stolen from me. My sister wouldn't have left me alone in that hospital. My sister wouldn't have celebrated with my money while I was drowning in medical debt. Joanna, you want to know what you are, Yasmin? You're a stranger who happens to have my kidney. Please don't do this. Please don't destroy our family. I didn't destroy anything. You did that when you decided I was disposable. I never said you were disposable. You didn't have to say it. You showed me. All of you showed me exactly what I meant to this family. We love you. No, you don't. You love what I can do for you. You love that I'm the responsible one, the caretaker, the one who fixes everything. But you don't love me. That's not true. Then why didn't any of you visit me in the hospital? Silence. Why didn't any of you call to check on my recovery? More silence. Why did you throw a party with my stolen money instead of making sure I was okay? Joanna, please. The trial is in 3 weeks, Yasmin. I'll see you there. I hung up and immediately blocked the number. Sophia looked up from her laptop. How do you feel? Empty. That's normal. Cutting off toxic family is like surgery. It hurts, but it's necessary for your survival. I keep waiting to feel guilty, or sad, or something. Maybe you will later, or maybe you won't. Either way is okay. My phone buzzed with a text from Davis Ford. Mohammed's testimony is devastating. He recorded conversations with your parents about the bribery. This case is airtight. I showed the message to Sophia. It's really happening, she said. Yeah, it is. Any regrets? I thought about Yasmin's voice on the phone, desperate and scared. I thought about my parents in orange jumpsuits, their faces pale with shock. I thought about the family photos that would never include me again. No, I said finally, no regrets. But as I said it, I touched the scar on my side where they'd taken my kidney, the physical reminder of what I'd given up for people who saw me as nothing more than a useful tool. Tomorrow the whole world would hear exactly what my family had done to me, and they would face the consequences of their choices. Justice was coming, whether I felt good about it or not. The trial lasted 4 days. 4 days of watching my family's lawyers try to paint me as vindictive and ungrateful. 4 days of listening to Mohammed's recorded conversations, where my parents laughed about how Joanna will never figure it out. 4 days of evidence so overwhelming that even their own lawyers looked embarrassed. Has the jury reached a verdict? Judge Williams asked. The foreman stood up. We have, Your Honour. On the charge of trust fund fraud against Reuben Johnson, how do you find? Guilty. Mum started crying. Dad just stared straight ahead. On the charge of trust fund fraud against Marlo Johnson, how do you find? Guilty. On the charge of conspiracy to commit fraud against Yasmin Johnson, how do you find? Guilty. Yasmin collapsed into her chair. Her lawyer caught her before she hit the floor. On the charge of receiving stolen property against Brian Graham, how do you find? Guilty. Brian put his head in his hands. On the charges of bribery and conspiracy against Mohammed Duncan, how do you find? Guilty on all counts. Judge Williams banged her gavel. Sentencing will be held next Friday. As the courtroom emptied, I sat there watching my family being led away in handcuffs. Yasmin looked back at me one more time, her face streaked with tears. Joanna, she called out. Please, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. Outside the courthouse, the reporters were waiting again. Miss Johnson, how do you feel about the verdict? Relieved, I said simply. What's next for you? Recovery, moving on with my life. Do you plan to reconcile with your family? No, some betrayals can't be forgiven. Davis Ford appeared at my side. That's all for today. As we walked away, he handed me an envelope. The restitution hearing is scheduled for next month. The court will order them to pay back everything, plus interest and damages. How much? Close to 1.2 million, including legal fees and punitive damages. Will I actually see that money? Some of it. The condo will be sold, Mohammed's assets will be seized, and your parents will be paying you for the rest of their lives. That evening, Sophia and I sat in her apartment, eating takeout and watching the news coverage. Local family convicted in trust fund fraud case, the anchor said. Reuben and Marlo Johnson face up to 10 years in federal prison for stealing their daughter's medical trust fund while she was donating a kidney to save their other daughter's life. They showed footage of me leaving the courthouse, looking tired but determined. The victim, Joanna Johnson, says she has no plans to reconcile with her family despite their convictions. My phone had been buzzing all day with friend requests, interview requests and messages from strangers. I'd ignored most of them, but one caught my attention. It was from my cousin Marcus, someone I hadn't spoken to in years. Joe, I just wanted you to know that not everyone in the family thinks you were wrong. What they did to you was unforgivable. I'm proud of you for standing up for yourself. If you ever need anything, I'm here. I showed the message to Sophia. See, you're not completely alone. It's weird. I thought I'd feel more triumphant or vindicated, something. What do you feel? Free. Like I can finally breathe again. The next morning, I woke up to a voicemail from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I listened to it. "Joanna, it's Mum." Her voice was shaky, defeated. "I know you probably won't listen to this, but I need you to know that we never meant to hurt you. We were scared, and we made terrible choices. I understand why you can't forgive us. I understand why you did what you did. I just wanted you to know that I love you. I've always loved you, and I'm sorry. I'm so, so sorry." I stared at the phone for a long moment, then deleted the message. An hour later, another voicemail, this one from Yasmin. "Joe, it's me. The doctors say my kidney function is declining. The stress from the trial, the guilt, everything. I might need another transplant soon." Her voice broke. "I know I have no right to ask, but if something happens to me, will you at least come to my funeral? Will you remember that we used to be sisters?" I deleted that message too, but the third voicemail made me pause. It was from Brian. "Joanna, this is Brian. I know you have no reason to listen to me, but I wanted you to know that I broke up with Yasmin. What she did to you, what your parents did, it's unforgivable. I testified against them because it was the right thing to do, but also because I couldn't be with someone who would treat family like that. I'm sorry I was part of this. I'm sorry I took your money, even unknowingly. I hope you can build a better life without any of us in it." I didn't delete that one. The sentencing hearing was quick. Dad got 8 years, Mum got 6, Yasmin got 4, Brian got 2 years probation, and Mohammed got 5 years plus disbarment. As they were led away, Dad turned to me one last time. "I hope you're happy now," he said. "I'm not happy," I replied, "but I'm free." That afternoon, Davis Ford called with news. The condo sold for $1.1 million. After legal fees and court costs, you'll receive about $900,000. When? The check will be ready next week. I hung up and looked around Sophia's apartment, where I'd been staying since the trial started. It was time to find my own place, time to start over. My phone buzzed with a text from my new job. I'd been hired at a non-profit that helped victims of financial crimes navigate the legal system. The pay wasn't great, but the work felt meaningful. "Joanna, your first client wants to meet tomorrow. She's a 22-year-old whose parents stole her college fund. Sound familiar?" I smiled and typed back, "I'll be there." That night, I sat on Sophia's balcony looking out at the city lights. My scar had healed completely, but sometimes I still felt phantom pain where my kidney used to be. A reminder of what I'd given up for people who saw me as expendable. But I'd learned something important. Sometimes the people who hurt you most are the ones you have to cut out of your life completely. Sometimes love isn't enough. Sometimes justice matters more than family. My phone buzzed one more time. Another unknown number. Another voicemail. This time, I didn't even listen to it. I just blocked the number and deleted the message. Whatever they had to say, I didn't need to hear it. I was done being their victim. I was done being their saviour. I was finally, completely, irreversibly done. And for the first time in my life, that felt like enough.
I came home after having dinner with a client. Out of habit, I opened my banking app without thinking much. Then I froze. My heart dropped. The number on the screen didn't make sense. All the money was gone. Every single dollar. $720,000. Vanished. That money was everything I had saved for 7 years. All the late nights, all the freelance jobs, every side gig, every extra shift I worked, it all added up to that one goal. I wanted to buy my first home. I had dreamed of it for so long. I had counted every dollar, carefully saving, never wasting. And just like that, it was all gone. I blinked and refreshed the screen, hoping it was just a glitch. Still empty. My hands were shaking as I called the bank. My heart was beating so fast I could hardly speak. The bank representative was calm as he explained. The money had been taken out legally. It wasn't a mistake. Someone with joint access to the account had withdrawn it. I had added someone years ago for emergencies. That person was my parents. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I didn't even call them. I just got in my car and drove straight to their house. The whole drive was silent. When I arrived, it felt like a normal evening. My dad was outside grilling. My mom was inside arranging flowers like everything was fine. My sister was sitting on the couch, scrolling on her phone. She was wearing a brand new designer sweater I had never seen before. "I need to talk to you," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. My dad smiled and said, "Ah, you saw it." I blinked, confused. Then he patted my shoulder and said, "Thanks for your trust, Margaret. Your money is now going toward your sister's future. She's going to Liverpool. Full program, travel, tuition, all of it paid for." I could barely breathe. "You stole from me," I said. My mom rolled her eyes and replied, "Stole? Please, Margaret. You've been sitting on that money for years. And for what? A tiny house in the suburbs? You would have wasted it." My sister didn't even look up. She just smiled, like she had already won. I couldn't help it. I laughed. A loud, strange laugh that shocked all of them. Because the truth is, the money they took wasn't really mine. Not anymore. That account was just a distraction. A decoy. They never asked how I managed to save so much. They never wondered how I paid off my debts early, or how I took 3 years off work and somehow came back with more money than before. They never asked because they never cared. They only saw what was easy to find, but they never saw the real me. I kept that account visible on purpose. It was for appearances only. They never even thought I might have more. They didn't think I could be more. So as they stood there, looking proud and certain they had broken me, I smiled even bigger. Because the money they took, that account was bait. It was a trap, and they walked right into it. Now they had given me exactly what I needed. A lesson. A warning. Proof of who they really were. I turned to leave. My father called after me. "You're being childish, Margaret. This is family." I stopped at the door. I looked back over my shoulder and said, "No, this was business. You made that clear." And then I walked away. My name is Margaret. If you're listening to this or reading this, stay with me. Because the money they stole was never about the money. It was a test. And they failed. Badly. They thought they were breaking me. What they didn't know was that the daughter they built to serve them was now going to destroy everything they had planned. I was done being quiet. I was done being their tool. I wasn't raised to be loved. I was raised to be useful. I was the firstborn, the responsible one, the quiet one, the daughter they could rely on, the helper, the fixer. They didn't cheer for me. They used me. My younger sister, Emily, was treated like a princess. She was praised for how she looked, how she smiled, and what they believed she could become. Me? I was the one doing the work. At 8 years old, I was babysitting her. At 13, I was helping manage the family's grocery budget. At 17, I was signing my own permission slips because my parents couldn't be bothered. They were always busy, unless it was something about Emily. Then they made time. They taught me early that attention was like money. I didn't have enough of it, but I could earn usefulness. So that's what I did. I became the best at it. I worked part-time all through college. I got straight A's. I made dinner when Mom was tired. I kept things quiet when Dad's business went under. I never asked for thanks. I just handled things, while they hardly even noticed. Meanwhile, Emily floated through life like she was on a parade float. She failed classes, but they said she was just discovering herself. She picked up expensive hobbies and dropped them. She took random trips, dated all kinds of people, made big mistakes, and every time they said she was just learning. But I was never allowed to fail. I was always expected to fix everything, stay strong, and never complain. Now they think they won. But they don't know who I really am. Not yet. I was always the backup plan. The one they could count on. The one who would always say yes. To them, I was like a walking piggy bank. When I got my first full-time job, I hoped they would be proud. Instead, they asked me to help pay the mortgage. And I did. When I bought a used car with my own money, they borrowed it. For 7 months. When I opened my first savings account, they asked to be added to it, just in case something ever happened. I didn't think twice. I trusted them. I believed maybe this time they would prove me wrong. But they didn't. That $720,000 wasn't just money. It was 7 years of my life. It was every vacation I didn't take. Every lunch I packed instead of buying. Every quiet birthday I spent alone. Every freelance job I did at 3 in the morning. That money was my dream. My first home. My only plan. They knew that. And they still took it, smiling like it was no big deal. Because they never saw me as someone who deserved anything. Only as someone who could give. But here's what they didn't expect. All those years they used me, I was learning. I wasn't just saving money. I was building knowledge. I was making plans. And while I gave them what they could see, I was creating something much bigger behind the scenes. I moved money from freelance jobs into different kinds of investments. I set up a trust. I bought digital assets under a different name. I became a quiet partner in 3 small companies. I even opened a business in another country. The money they saw me saving? That was just for show. The truth is, I had already doubled it. And I hid it in places they could never reach. The account they emptied wasn't my future. It was a trap. I left it there to see what they would do. And now I know. If you want to see someone's true self, give them a little power. Give them access to your peace. Then watch what they do. My family chose to steal. They chose to betray me. And now I don't owe them anything. I don't feel guilty. I'm free. Free to live the life I built in secret. Free to be someone they can't control. Someone they never expected. People often say I'm quiet, polite, easy to ignore. They're right. And that's exactly why I win. Because the $720,000 they stole wasn't really my savings. It looked like my wealth, but it wasn't. It was bait. Let me tell you how this really started. When I started making good money, I opened 3 bank accounts. One was a joint savings account that I told my parents about. The other was private. They never knew it existed. Can you guess which account they always asked about? I made sure to put a small part of my income into the joint account. Just enough to look good. Just enough to make it seem like I was doing great. I let them brag to the rest of the family. Margaret is so smart and responsible. She's saved over 6 figures already. But the truth was very different. My real income, the money from consulting work, stock payments, and profits from selling crypto, went somewhere else. I used different accounts, different names, different methods. By the time I turned 30, I had built over $2.2 million. It was spread out in investments, trust funds, and part ownership in small businesses. My parents were focused on the wrong account the entire time. They always were. The funny part? They thought they were smart. They took the money from the joint account right before I was supposed to close on a house. I even heard my mom the next day after the theft. It's too late for her to stop it now. It's done. She'll forgive us eventually. They really believed I wouldn't see it coming. They thought they outsmarted me. But they didn't know the house wasn't real. I had made the whole thing up. The emails, the agent, the timeline, even the listing, I faked all of it. I made it all look real so they would think they were stealing something important. I knew they would take the money eventually. I just wanted to make sure they did it when I was ready. What they took wasn't the heart of my savings. It was protected. I had moved the money a month before through my business, marked it as capital movement. It was separate, recorded, and yes, even insured. When I filed the report and gave the bank all the proof, names, who had access, computer details, times, it only took 72 hours for the fraud team to act. There will be an investigation. And I'll quietly get that money back through the insurance. They'll never know. But I'm not going to tell them that. Let them think they won. Let them believe they ruined me. That I was just some fool who trusted them. Because I wasn't chasing money. I was looking for the truth. And they gave it to me, loud and clear. Through their greed, they showed me exactly what I needed to see. They were never trying to protect me. I was never the daughter they loved. I was just the one they used. I was the daughter they used. The one they depended on when things went wrong. But now, everything is changing. They don't know what's already happening behind the scenes. The car that's in my name? I'm taking it back. The house we co-invested in? I'm removing myself from it. That money they used for my sister's school? It was backed by me. I was the one who guaranteed it. And just today, I sent a notice to cancel that agreement. They took from the wrong daughter. But they did it so confidently, like they had nothing to fear. Honestly, I almost want to thank them. Because by stealing from me, they showed me exactly who they are. And now I'm done being used. I'm not their helper anymore. I'm the one who's going to undo everything they built on my back. In a family like mine, you don't survive by crying or complaining. You survive by being smart. I've been planning this for a long time. Ever since I realized I wasn't their daughter, I was just their backup plan. That's when I stopped thinking like a child and started thinking like a businesswoman. So no, I wasn't surprised when they took the $720,000. I wanted them to take it. Now I have everything I need. I have proof. I have their actions, the timing, and all the records. Most important of all, I have silence. I didn't yell when I found out. I didn't argue. I didn't even ask why. Because when you shout, they call you dramatic. They stop listening. But when you say nothing, that scares people like them. Selfish people get nervous when they don't know what you're thinking. They start to wonder what you're up to. And I was up to a lot. I started with the bills. For years, I had been quietly paying for their electricity, phone, and internet. They never said thank you. They just expected it. One evening, I stopped it all. I turned off the automatic payments. The next morning, I got a text from my dad. Hey, do you know what's going on with the power company? The bill didn't go through. I didn't answer. That same weekend, I removed myself from the cosign line of credit I helped them open. They had no idea I could do that without their signature. But I could. And I did. And that was just the beginning. I planned it all carefully. Just one letter, one fax, one form. That's all it took. Within 3 days, their credit score dropped by 77 points. Next, I took my share out of the family investment they had forgotten about. 4 years ago, my father built a house using my money. I owned 51% of it, but I kept quiet. They thought it was all his. Then, I had my lawyer send an official notice. They had 2 choices, buy me out or sell the house. I already knew they couldn't afford either one. While all this was happening, my sister was still enjoying her trip around Europe, acting like nothing could touch her. But she was about to get a surprise. The final thing I did was remove myself as her financial backer for her university program. She had been accepted into a top international business school. What nobody knew was that the school required someone from her home country to take legal responsibility for her tuition if it ever went unpaid. That person was me. I had signed the paperwork years ago, quietly, as a favor. She never said thank you. Never even mentioned it. So, I took it back. 1 email. 1 scanned form. That's all it took. The school emailed her the very next day. I can only imagine her panic. By then, the money they stole from me was already gone. Spent. But what they didn't expect was that the real safety net me was gone too. And everything they relied on began to fall apart. Not all at once. Quietly. Slowly. One thing after another. No shouting. No big fights. Just doors closing. I knew they'd come looking for me eventually. But this time, I wouldn't be there. They thought I was just a quiet little helper. A savings account with a soft voice and a kind heart. What they didn't know was that I had been watching, waiting, and planning all along. I let them take from me so I could finally walk away without guilt. So that when they said, "We're family," I could answer with a calm voice, "No, this was business." You know what people never tell you? Leaving is not the hard part. The hard part is watching them realize you were the one holding everything together. They thought when they stole the $720,000, I would scream, cry, or beg. But I didn't. I smiled. Because now they finally saw who I really was. Instead of breaking down, I got to work. I called it Operation Exit. The goal was simple: remove every connection, every dollar, every document, and every responsibility that tied me to them. I started with the most personal thing, my name. I legally changed it. Just the middle and last name. Quietly and carefully. They wouldn't find out until they saw it somewhere official, maybe in a contract or a news story. I updated all my legal records. Changed everything in my business documents. I removed my name from anything we once shared. That included our joint safety deposit box and the emergency insurance account I had opened for my dad after his heart scare. All gone. Now, if they tried to use anything with my name, it wouldn't work. And I didn't stop there. Remember that simple car I bought years ago for the family? The one my mom drove every day like it was hers? Well, it was still legally mine. She never changed the ownership. So I reported it as taken back. One phone call and a tow truck later, the car was back in my name and sitting in my garage. I sold it the next week. I used the money to add to my daughter Jessica's school account. Oh, did I mention Jessica? My daughter. My parents never helped with her. Never offered to babysit. Never showed up for her birthdays. Never came to her school. But somehow, my mom still posted online like she was the best grandma in the world. So, I deleted every photo of Jessica from their shared cloud folder. I took away their access. I erased the story they had created, the one they never earned. I did it piece by piece. Every time they turned around, something else was gone. The electricity bill went unpaid. The retirement account my dad didn't even know I was still adding money to? Frozen. The travel credit card my sister used under my name? Cancelled. Bit by bit, I took apart the life they had built using me. While they were struggling, I was rising. I moved into a high-rise condo. I signed 3 new clients for my consulting business. I started planning a retreat for women like me, the quiet daughters, the ones who gave everything, the ones who kept things running while getting nothing in return. I didn't post about it. I didn't brag. I didn't need them to see me succeed. I just needed them to feel the loss. Then one night, I got a message from my father. He wrote, "We need to talk. What you're doing is petty and hurtful." It was the first time he'd spoken to me in weeks. Still no apology. No regret. Just blame. Just more excuses. I sent one message back. "You stole a test, not my life. And I've already passed." Then I blocked his number. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about walking away. Walking away from their drama. Walking away from the lies I used to tell myself, just to get by. Walking away from the guilt they planted in me every time they didn't say, "Thank you." I wasn't leaving in anger. I was leaving free. And the family that thought I'd fall apart without them? They were finally learning the truth. I wasn't their backup plan. I was their whole plan. And I had just walked away. It started with a flight. A canceled one. Emily had booked a business class ticket to Rome. It was for a networking trip her school recommended, but really it was probably more about taking pictures than learning anything. She had already posted her whole trip online. Liverpool, Rome, Badalona. #, boss babe in Europe. But when she landed at Lennon Airport, she was told her flight was canceled. Not enough funds. She called the airline. Then the credit card company. She tried to act like she was some rich girl who didn't know what was going on. But the truth was simple. I closed the card. It was my credit card. For years, she used it with my permission, only for emergencies. She always said, "Just this once, you'll get it back, right?" But she never did. So I took it back. No warning. And that was just the beginning. 3 weeks later, her university emailed her. Her tuition payment was late. She replied in a panic, sending them a screenshot of the guarantee I had once signed. They answered, "We regret to inform you that your financial backer has officially removed responsibility. Please pay the balance within 15 days, or your enrollment may be canceled." That backer was me. Every semester, every fee, every little problem with her student visa, I had fixed it. Not because she loved me. Not because she ever thanked me. But because I hoped that if I gave enough, one day they would finally see me. They never did. So, I stopped giving. Emily messaged me 4 times. First, fake nice. "Hey, can you help? I think something went wrong with the payments." Then, passive-aggressive. "It's really messed up that you do this to your own sister." And finally, desperate. "They're talking about suspension." But by then, I had already let go. "I don't have the money. Please, Margaret. Please." I didn't reply. Not because I was being mean, but because I was done. I wasn't her secret helper anymore. I wasn't a safety net hiding in the background. I was the sister she ignored at family dinners. The one she rolled her eyes at because I didn't dress cool enough. The one she stole from and then watched our parents laugh like it was some kind of joke. I still remember when she got accepted into her program. She posted online, "All thanks to the support of my amazing parents. Hashtag blessed, hashtag grateful."
She didn't mention me.
Not even once. And that's fine, because now she could run to them for help. But what she didn't know was their house was almost in foreclosure. Their bank account was frozen. Their connections couldn't help them anymore. Her amazing parents were busy trying to get the power turned back on. The golden child wasn't shining anymore. She was just another person sinking with the rest of the ship. And me? I was sitting by the window in my new condo, eating takeout, watching the sunset. My phone was on silent. I didn't need an update to know what was happening. For the first time, their world was crashing without me holding it up. The silence that once made me feel lonely now gave me peace. No fancy title, no shiny degree, no pretty photo in a European cafe could change the truth. Her whole life was paid for by the sister she looked down on. And that sister? She just walked away. It started with one small email. No subject. Just, "Can we talk?" I didn't open it. Then came the text from my mom. "Margaret, please, let's not make this worse than it is." From my dad. "This isn't like you. We're your family." From Emily. Full meltdown mode. "They're going to kick me out. I didn't know you'd actually do this.
Please.
Please." Each message sounded more desperate than the last. But they didn't understand. I wasn't being cold. I was being clear. They made a choice when they took my money, when they laughed about it, when they called me naive, when they said I'd waste it anyway. They knew exactly what they were doing. They just didn't think I'd ever fight back. They thought I would cry, but I didn't. I built strong walls around myself, quiet, steady, and solid. They tried calling me. From new numbers, old numbers, even hidden ones. They messaged me on apps I had forgotten I still had. But I didn't answer. I let every alert pop up on my phone, and I ignored them all. Then one voicemail broke the pattern. It was my father's voice, but not the voice I remembered growing up. There was no pride in it, no strength. Just sadness. "We didn't think you'd actually cut us off. Your mother can't sleep. Your sister's losing her place. We're drowning, Margaret. We didn't mean for it to go this far." That one line stuck with me. We didn't mean for it to go this far. But the truth is they did. They pushed me that far. They took and took, never thinking I would walk away. They never imagined I'd stop turning around to save them. Later that day, a letter was delivered to me. Handwritten. No return address. Inside was a note from my mother. Her handwriting looked rushed and shaky. It said, "You don't have to forgive us. Just help. That's what family does." Taped to the back was a photo of me as a child, 8 years old, smiling with missing front teeth. They had dug up that photo like a memory, hoping it would make me feel guilty. Hoping feelings would do what guilt alone couldn't. I looked at that little girl in the picture. She deserved love. She deserved a safe home. She deserved parents who didn't treat her like she was less just because she wasn't like her sister. Now, she was finally safe because I had built a life around her. A life they could never touch again. I folded the photo gently and placed it in my drawer. The letter? I burned it. The next morning, I sent one final message. Just one line. No greeting. No emotion. No way for them to twist it. Funny how fast the future falls apart when it's built on stolen bricks. Then I blocked them. Every single one. No more explaining. No more trying to be heard. No more hoping they'd change. I wasn't angry. I was done. The one thing they never saw coming was this. The girl they leaned on, the one they used as the base of their lives, finally walked away and let it all fall. They thought they had taken everything from me, but all they really did was pay for my freedom. With every selfish choice, every cruel word, every dollar they took, they helped cut the last ties I was too loyal to break on my own. So I silently thanked them, and I moved on. A week later, I bought a house in the hills. Quiet.
Calm.
Completely mine. Paid for in full. I turned the guest room into a studio. For writing, dreaming and resting. And now, the walls are filled with books I never had time to read. While I was busy making life easy for everyone else, I was also building something of my own. At home, the kitchen is always full. The bills are paid automatically. Jessica, my daughter, is doing great. She doesn't ask about them anymore. She doesn't get scared when the doorbell rings. Because now, our home is calm. It feels soft and safe, not like we're just trying to survive. I used a part of my real savings, the part my family never touched, to start something special. It's a fund to help girls like me. Girls who were the first in their families to do everything. Girls who were ignored. Girls who were used like emotional ATMs by the people who should have loved them. It's called Daughters Who Stayed. Because we stayed. For too long. Now we help those daughters build exits. The fund quietly pays for things like school, housing, therapy, or whatever peace looks like for each girl. No big news stories. No attention. Just quiet help and healing. Last month, a journalist reached out. They wanted to write about my life. A story about a woman who became a millionaire on her own and cut ties with her family. I said no. Not because I'm hiding anything, but because my story doesn't need to give them attention. I'm not the forgotten girl anymore. I'm the woman they lost. And the life I've built? It's not built on hate. It's built on truth. They showed me who not to be. And by doing that, they gave me the map for who I could become. Sometimes I still remember that day. My father laughing. My mother's smug look. Emily pretending not to care. I think about how sure they were that I was weak. How proud they were to tell me they used my hard-earned money to fund someone else's future. And I smile. Because that was the last time they had power over me. Now my strength is quiet, but strong. It's in the way my phone stays silent, no more demands. It's in the way my money supports only me and Jessica. It's in her smile. It's in the peace we have every single day. That girl they ignored, she didn't waste her life. She invested in the one thing they could never take, herself. They stole a fake account and thought they won. But while they were busy celebrating, I was building something real. And the daughter they erased from their story? She became the woman they'll never be able to write out again.
You know that moment when you realize you've been played for 5 years straight? When the people you trusted most look you dead in the eye and destroy everything you sacrificed for? Yeah, that was Tuesday for me. My name is Vanessa, and I'm about to tell you how my own family tried to screw me over so badly that karma had to step in and teach them a lesson they'll never forget. It started 5 years ago when Dad got his diagnosis. Pancreatic cancer. The doctors gave him 18 months, maybe 2 years if he was lucky. Mom called me first, her voice shaking through the phone. Vanessa, honey, we need to talk about your father. I was living in Portland then, had a decent marketing job, a small apartment I actually liked, and was finally dating someone who didn't make me want to throw things. You know, a normal life for a 30-something woman. What's wrong? I asked, though I already knew from her tone that my world was about to flip upside down. He's sick, really sick. The doctors say. Her voice cracked. Someone needs to be with him, full time. That someone, of course, was me. Not Aurora, my younger sister who lived 20 minutes away with her husband Carl and their 2 kids. Not Mom, who suddenly developed a convenient case of, I can't handle seeing him like this. No, it was me, the eldest daughter, the one who'd always been expected to fix everything. I can't just drop everything, Mom. I have a job, responsibilities. Vanessa. Her voice went cold. That tone I remembered from childhood when she'd made up her mind. This is your father we're talking about. Family comes first. The guilt trip worked, like it always did. Within 2 weeks, I'd quit my job, broken up with David, who, let's be honest, was probably relieved, and moved back into my childhood bedroom to become Dad's full-time caregiver. Don't worry, sweetheart, Mom said as she helped me unpack. We know what you're giving up for us. The house will be yours when the time comes. It's only fair. Aurora nodded enthusiastically from the doorway, bouncing her youngest on her hip. Absolutely. You're doing so much for Dad. We could never repay you, but at least you'll have the house. The house. Our family home. A beautiful 3-bedroom colonial worth about $400,000. It wasn't just about the money, though God knows I'd need it after burning through my savings. It was about having something to show for the years I was about to lose. You promise? I asked, hating how desperate I sounded. Of course, Mom said, squeezing my hand. It's already decided. Those first months were hell. Dad was still mobile then, but the treatments left him weak and nauseous. I drove him to appointments, managed his medications, cleaned up when he couldn't make it to the bathroom in time. I watched him shrink from the strong man who'd taught me to ride a bike into someone who needed help buttoning his shirts. Aurora visited maybe once a week, usually with the kids in tow. She'd stay for an hour, take some photos for social media about spending precious time with Grandpa, then leave me to deal with the aftermath when Dad was too tired to even sit up. I wish I could do more, she'd say, adjusting her designer purse. But with the kids and Carl's work schedule, Mom was even worse. She'd show up for the good days when Dad was feeling well enough to sit on the porch or watch TV. The moment things got messy, literally or figuratively, she'd suddenly remember an appointment or a commitment. You're so much better at this than I am, she'd tell me. He needs you. The isolation was crushing. My friends in Portland stopped calling after a few months. My savings account dwindled as I paid for Dad's supplements, special foods, and the countless little things insurance didn't cover. I aged 5 years in the first 12 months alone. But I held on to that promise. The house. My reward for sacrificing everything. It was during Dad's 3rd year of treatment on one of his rare good days when he grabbed my hand with surprising strength. Vanessa, he whispered, his eyes more focused than they'd been in weeks. I need to make this right. What you've done for me, it's not fair what they're asking of you. Dad, don't worry about... No. His grip tightened. I need to fix this before it's too late. He struggled to sit up, reaching for the drawer in his nightstand. His hands shook as he pulled out a manila folder I'd never seen before. What is this? I asked. He looked toward the door, then back at me, his voice barely audible. Insurance. For you. That's when I found the papers that would change everything. I should have known something was up when Aurora started visiting more often. Not to help with Dad, mind you, but to have these hushed conversations with Mom in the kitchen while I was busy giving him his medications or helping him to the bathroom. The first time I caught them whispering, they went silent the second I walked in. Just talking about the grocery list, Mom said, folding a piece of paper and shoving it into her purse. Need me to pick anything up? I asked. No. Aurora's got it covered. Right. Aurora, who hadn't bought groceries for this house in 3 years, suddenly had it covered. The conversations got more frequent. Aurora would show up around dinner time, when Dad was usually napping, and she and Mom would disappear into the den. I'd hear fragments through the thin walls. Not fair to Carl and the kids. She's getting free room and board. Think about Aurora's future. One evening, I was coming back from the pharmacy when I saw Carl's car in the driveway. Through the kitchen window, I could see all 3 of them, Mom, Aurora, and Carl, sitting around the table with papers spread out in front of them. I walked in through the back door, and they scrambled to cover everything up like teenagers hiding porn. Oh, Vanessa! Aurora jumped up, her face flushed. Carl was showing us some insurance stuff for his work. Carl nodded too enthusiastically. Yeah, boring financial planning stuff. You know how it is. I looked at the papers they were still trying to shuffle together. One had Dad's name at the top in bold letters. Is that something for Dad's care? I asked. No, Mom said quickly. Just some old documents Carl needed to see for reference. The lies were getting more elaborate and more obvious. A few days later, Aurora cornered me while I was doing laundry in the basement. Vanessa, we need to talk about the future. What about it? She perched on the edge of the washing machine, picking at her manicured nails. I mean, after Dad, what are your plans? I haven't really thought that far ahead. I lied. Of course I'd thought about it. I'd be getting the house and I'd finally be able to rebuild my life. It's just that Carl and I have been talking, and with the kids getting older, we're going to need more space. Our apartment is getting really cramped. That's tough, I said, not looking up from folding Dad's shirts. The thing is, this house would be perfect for us. 4 bedrooms, that big backyard for the kids. I stopped folding. Aurora, Mom already promised me the house. We talked about this when I moved back. I know, I know. But that was before we really thought it through. I mean, you're single, no kids. You don't need all this space. And Carl's been looking at getting a promotion. But we'd need to show stability, you know? Having a house would really help with that. So you want me to just give up the one thing I was promised for 5 years of caregiving? It's not giving up. We'd work something out. Maybe you could stay in the guest room, help with the kids. I stared at her. You want me to become your live-in babysitter after I've spent 5 years as Dad's nurse? That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean, Aurora? She slid off the washing machine, her voice getting that whiny tone it always got when she wasn't getting her way. I just think you're being selfish. This family needs to stick together, and Carl and I have real responsibilities. Kids to think about. And I have nothing to think about? You've been living here rent-free for years. Do you know how much money you've saved? Carl and I have been struggling to make ends meet while you've had it easy. Easy. 5 years of watching my father slowly die was easy. Get out, I said quietly. Vanessa, get out of the basement. Now. She huffed and stomped upstairs, but not before I heard her mutter, Mom's right. You've gotten really selfish since you moved back. That night, I was helping Dad with his evening medications when he grabbed my wrist. They came to see me today, he whispered. Who? Your mother and Aurora. They had papers. My blood went cold. What kind of papers? They want me to sign the house over to Aurora. Said it would be better for the family. His eyes were clearer than they'd been in weeks. They said you agreed to it. I never agreed to anything like that. I know. He squeezed my hand. That's why I didn't sign. But they'll be back. Dad, the papers I showed you yesterday, in my nightstand, that's your protection, Vanessa. Don't let them know about it yet. 2 days later, I was coming back from Dad's doctor appointment when I saw Aurora's car in the driveway again. I parked and sat for a moment, trying to decide whether to go in through the front door or sneak around back. The decision was made for me when Aurora came bursting out the front door, practically skipping down the steps. She was on her phone, and her voice carried across the yard. Carl, it's done! Dad signed everything this morning. The house is ours! She saw me sitting in my car and had the decency to look embarrassed for about 2 seconds before her expression shifted to defiant. Vanessa, perfect timing. We need to talk. I got out of the car slowly, my hands shaking with rage. About what, Aurora? About your next steps, now that the paperwork's all settled. I pushed past Aurora and stormed into the house. Mom was sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of tea, looking way too pleased with herself. Vanessa, honey, sit down. We need to discuss. Where is he? I demanded. Your father's resting. The morning was very tiring for him. I headed straight for Dad's room. He was lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, looking more defeated than I'd ever seen him. Dad? He turned his head slowly. I'm sorry, Vanessa. I'm so sorry. What happened? They wouldn't leave. Your mother kept saying it was for the best, that Aurora needed it more. They had Carl there too, talking about the grandchildren's future. His voice was barely a whisper. I was so tired. They kept pushing and pushing. I sat on the edge of his bed. Did you sign the papers? He nodded, tears starting to form in his eyes. But Vanessa, remember what I told you, the folder in my nightstand. That's still... Dad, what's in that folder? He struggled to sit up, and I helped him. A contract between you and me for your caregiving services. What kind of contract? I had my lawyer draw it up 6 months ago. Every hour you've worked, every expense you've covered, every sacrifice you've made, it's all documented. You're not just my daughter helping out. You're my employee, my caregiver, and I owe you. I stared at him. How much? Market rate for full-time care, plus expenses. About $300,000. My mouth fell open. Dad? That's almost the entire value of the estate. I know. He gripped my hand. They can have the house, Vanessa, but they'll have to pay you first, and there won't be enough left to cover both. Why didn't you tell me about this before? Because I hoped they'd do the right thing. I thought maybe your mother would come to her senses. He coughed, the effort exhausting him. But when they came here today with those papers, demanding I sign, I knew they never intended to keep their promise to you. The bedroom door opened and Mom walked in with Aurora right behind her. Thomas, you need to rest, Mom said. Vanessa, we need to talk. We're talking, I said, not moving from Dad's bedside. In the kitchen, now. Dad squeezed my hand. Remember what I told you? I followed them to the kitchen where Carl was now sitting at the table, looking uncomfortable. Vanessa, Mom began, I know this is a lot to process, but we've made the decision that's best for everyone. Best for everyone? Or best for Aurora? The house will stay in the family, Aurora said. Carl and I will take good care of it, and you're welcome to visit any time. Visit? This has been my home for 5 years. You always knew this was temporary, Mom said. You came back to help your father, and you've done that beautifully, but now it's time to think about the future. What about my future? What about the promise you made me? Aurora rolled her eyes. You act like we're throwing you out on the street. You've been living here rent-free for years. You should have enough saved up to get your own place. Saved up? I've spent every penny I had on Dad's care. That was your choice, Mom said coldly. Carl finally spoke up. Maybe we could help with a security deposit or something. For an apartment. I looked at the three of them, sitting there like they were doing me a favor. Like 5 years of my life meant nothing. You know what? You're right. I should have been thinking about my future. I stood up. And I have been. Good, Mom said. I'm glad you're being reasonable about this. Oh, I'm being very reasonable. In fact, I think it's time I made some phone calls. What kind of phone calls? Aurora asked. Well, first I need to call Dad's lawyer. There are some documents that need to be filed. The color drained from Mom's face. What documents? And then I need to call an estate attorney, someone who specializes in caregiver contracts. Vanessa, what are you talking about? Aurora's voice was getting higher. I walked to the kitchen counter and picked up my phone. Did you know that when someone provides full-time care for a family member, they can be legally compensated for their services? Especially when there's a written agreement? There's no agreement, Mom said quickly. Actually, there is. Dad and I signed it 6 months ago. Every hour I've worked, every expense I've covered, every sacrifice I've made, it's all documented and legally binding. Carl leaned forward. How much are we talking about? About $300,000. The silence in the kitchen was deafening. That's impossible, Aurora whispered. Is it? Let's see. 5 years of full-time care at market rates, plus all the expenses I've covered out of pocket. Actually, 300 might be conservative. Mom's teacup rattled against the saucer as she set it down. Thomas wouldn't do that to us. He already did. The contract is signed, witnessed, and filed with his attorney. Aurora started crying. But the house can't be transferred until all debts are paid. And guess what? I'm now the estate's biggest creditor. I headed toward the door, then turned back. Oh, and Aurora, you might want to call your landlord. Something tells me you're going to need that apartment for a while longer. Dad passed away 3 weeks later on a quiet Thursday morning. I was holding his hand when he took his last breath, and for a moment the house was completely silent except for the sound of my own crying. Mom and Aurora arrived an hour after I called them. Aurora immediately started sobbing dramatically, throwing herself across Dad's bed like she'd been there all along. Mom just stood in the doorway, dry-eyed and calculating. We need to call the funeral home, she said. I already did. They'll be here in an hour. Good. We have a lot to arrange. The funeral was a nightmare. Aurora played the grieving daughter perfectly, accepting condolences from relatives who had no idea what had been going on behind the scenes. She even had the nerve to give a eulogy about how much Dad meant to the family and how he'd want us all to stick together. I sat in the front row, watching her performance, wondering if she actually believed her own lies. After the service, Uncle Mike pulled me aside. Vanessa, I want you to know how much we all appreciate what you did for your father. 5 years of your life. That's real love. Thank you, Uncle Mike. Your mom mentioned you might be moving out soon. If you need any help with anything. I glanced over at Mom, who was watching us from across the room. Actually, there might be some complications with that. What kind of complications? Before I could answer, Aurora appeared at my elbow. Uncle Mike, thanks so much for coming. Dad would have been so happy to see everyone here. She linked her arm through mine in a show of sisterly solidarity that made my skin crawl. Vanessa and I were just talking about how we're going to keep Dad's memory alive in the house. Right, Vanessa? Were we? Her grip on my arm tightened. Of course, family is everything. The next morning, I was packing Dad's medications to return to the pharmacy when Aurora and Carl showed up with a U-Haul truck. What's that for? I asked. We're moving in this weekend, Aurora announced. No point in waiting around. Moving in where? Here. Our house now, remember? She walked past me into the living room like she owned the place, which, technically, she did. Carl looked embarrassed as he followed her in. Vanessa, we really appreciate everything you've done. We know this is hard. Do you? We talked about it, and we want to give you 2 weeks to find a place. That's fair, right? I stared at him. 2 weeks? Well, we already gave our landlord notice, and the kids are excited about having their own rooms. Aurora came back from her tour of the house. Oh, and Vanessa, we're going to need to redecorate. This whole place screams old sick person, you know. We want it to feel like a real family home. This was Dad's home for 30 years. And now it's ours. She pulled out her phone and started taking pictures. I'm thinking we'll paint over that awful wallpaper in the dining room. Maybe knock out the wall between the kitchen and living room to make it more open concept. You want to tear down walls? It's our house, she said, not looking up from her phone. We can do whatever we want with it. That afternoon, Mom showed up with cleaning supplies and started going through Dad's belongings like she was preparing for a garage sale. Mom, what are you doing? Clearing out his room. Aurora and Carl will need the space. She was folding Dad's clothes into garbage bags. His favorite sweater, the one he wore every Sunday, went right into the donation pile. Don't you think we should take some time before— Time for what? He's gone, Vanessa. These are just things. I watched her pack away 30 years of Dad's life in 20 minutes. His books, his reading glasses, the little wooden box where he kept his cufflinks. Everything went into bags and boxes like it had never mattered at all. There, she said, surveying the empty room. Much better. Aurora can set up the nursery in here. Nursery? Oh, didn't she tell you she's pregnant again? Due in the spring? Of course she was. Another grandchild to justify taking the house. That evening, I called Chelsea, the estate lawyer Dad had used. Chelsea, it's Vanessa. I need to file the caregiver contract. Are you sure you want to do this? Once I submit these documents, there's no going back? I looked around the house that was no longer mine, at the boxes of Dad's life stacked in the hallway, at Aurora's kids running through the rooms claiming their new bedrooms. I'm sure. Okay, I'll need you to come in tomorrow morning. Bring all your documentation, receipts, medical records, anything that shows the scope of care you provided. What happens next? I file a claim against the estate. Until that claim is satisfied, no assets can be transferred. The house sale is frozen. And if they can't pay? Then the house gets sold to pay the debt. Your debt. I hung up and walked to the kitchen where Aurora was making dinner like she'd been cooking in this kitchen her whole life. Aurora, we need to talk. Can it wait? I'm trying to figure out this stove. No, it can't wait. She turned around, spatula in hand. What's so urgent? I filed a claim against Dad's estate today. The spatula clattered to the floor. The meeting at Chelsea's office was like watching a bomb go off in slow motion. Aurora and Carl sat on one side of the conference table, Mom on the other. I took the chair across from Chelsea, who had Dad's file spread out in front of her like evidence at a trial. Ladies, gentlemen, thank you for coming, Chelsea began. We're here to discuss the claim filed against Thomas's estate by Vanessa for caregiver services rendered. This is ridiculous, Mom snapped. She's his daughter. Daughters don't charge their fathers for care. Chelsea slid a document across the table. Actually, Mrs. Douglas, they do when there's a legal contract in place. This agreement was signed by Thomas 6 months before his death and properly witnessed. Aurora grabbed the paper, her hands shaking. $300,000? That's insane. Let me break it down for you, Chelsea said, opening another folder. Full-time caregiving services at market rate, $40 per hour, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, for 5 years. That's approximately $730,000. Carl's face went white. 700,000? However, the contract specifies a reduced rate of $20 per hour, acknowledging the family relationship, plus documented expenses for medical supplies, special foods, transportation to appointments, and home modifications for accessibility. We never agreed to pay her anything, Aurora shouted. You didn't have to. Thomas did. Chelsea pulled out another document. Here's his signed statement acknowledging that Vanessa sacrificed her career and personal life to provide his care and that she should be compensated accordingly. Mom leaned forward. He wasn't in his right mind. The cancer, the medications. The contract was signed during a period when Thomas was fully competent, as verified by his doctor. I have the medical records right here. Aurora started crying. But we need that house. We have children. We're pregnant again. That's not the estate's concern, Chelsea said matter-of-factly. The law is clear. All debts must be satisfied before any assets can be distributed. So what does that mean? Carl asked quietly. It means the house cannot be transferred to Aurora until Vanessa's claim is paid in full. The estate's total value is approximately $450,000. After funeral expenses and other debts, there's about $400,000 left. But that's barely enough to cover her ridiculous claim, Aurora shrieked. Actually, it's not enough. The claim is for $312,000, but there are also estate taxes, legal fees, and administrative costs. After everything is settled, there will be approximately $30,000 left. The silence in the room was deafening. $30,000? Mom whispered. That's not enough for a down payment on a studio apartment, Carl said. Aurora turned to me, her face twisted with rage. You planned this. You manipulated Dad when he was dying. I took care of him when no one else would. You lived here rent-free for 5 years. I gave up my career, my savings, my entire life for 5 years. Girls, please, Mom started. No! Aurora slammed her hand on the table. She's destroying our family over money. You destroyed it the minute you decided to steal the house behind my back. We didn't steal anything. Dad signed it over to us. After you pressured him for months while I was too busy keeping him alive to notice. Chelsea cleared her throat. If I may, there are a few options here. The estate could take out a loan against the house to pay the claim, though given the amount, that's unlikely to be approved. Or what? Mom asked. The house could be sold. The proceeds would pay Vanessa's claim first, then any remaining funds would go to Aurora as specified in the will. Sold? Aurora's voice cracked. But we already moved in. Our kids picked out their rooms. You moved in before the estate was settled, Chelsea said. That was premature. Carl put his head in his hands. We gave up our apartment. We have nowhere to go. That's not my problem, I said. Aurora whirled on me. How can you say that? We're family. Family? You mean like when you promised me the house for 5 years, then signed it away the second Dad was weak enough to manipulate? We didn't manipulate anyone. Really? Because I have text messages. I pulled out my phone. Here's one from you to Carl. Dad's having a bad day. Perfect time to get him to sign. And another one. Vanessa's at the pharmacy. Come over now with the papers. Aurora's face went pale. How did you get those? Carl accidentally sent them to me instead of you. Wrong contact. Carl looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. There's more, I continued. Voice messages, emails, even a recording of you telling Mom that I was too stupid to know what was happening. You recorded us? Dad's baby monitor picks up conversations from the kitchen. Amazing what people say when they think no one's listening. Mom finally spoke, her voice ice cold. Vanessa, if you go through with this, you'll have nothing left. No family, no home, no one who cares about you. I already have nothing, Mom. You made sure of that. Chelsea shuffled her papers. I need a decision. Do you want to proceed with the claim? I looked at Aurora, still crying, at Carl staring at his hands, at Mom glaring at me like I was her worst enemy. File it. Vanessa, please, Aurora started. File it today. As we left the office, Aurora grabbed my arm in the parking lot. I'll fight this. I'll prove you coerced, Dad, that you took advantage of a sick old man. I pulled my arm free. Good luck with that. I mean it. I'll drag you through court, expose what you really are, a greedy, selfish... What I really am, I said quietly, is someone who kept her word. Unlike you. I got in my car and drove away, leaving them standing in the parking lot, their perfect plan crumbling around them. Within a week, Aurora and Carl were back in their old apartment. I know because Carl called me, practically begging. Vanessa, please, we had to break our lease to move into the house. Now we're paying double rent until we can find something else. That sounds rough. The kids are confused. They don't understand why they can't live in Grandpa's house anymore. Maybe you should have thought about that before you lied to them. We never lied. Carl, I have recordings. Do you want me to play them for your kids? He hung up. The family gossip network kicked into high gear. Aunt Linda called first. Vanessa, honey, I heard there's some trouble with your father's estate. Nothing I can't handle, Aunt Linda. Well, your cousin Beth mentioned that Aurora's been telling people you're trying to steal the house from her children. Is that what she's saying? She's also saying you manipulated your father when he was dying, that you took advantage of his illness. I laughed, but it came out bitter. Aunt Linda, did Aurora ever visit Dad when he was sick? Well, I'm sure once a week, for an hour, usually with the kids, so she could take pictures for Facebook. Oh. Did she ever change his sheets when he had an accident? Feed him when he was too weak to hold a spoon? Sit with him during chemo treatments? Silence. I did all of that, for 5 years, while Aurora was posting about what a devoted daughter she was. I had no idea. Most people don't, but now you do. By the end of the week, the family had split into camps. Uncle Mike and Aunt Linda were on my side. Cousin Beth was Team Aurora. Aunt Sarah was staying neutral, which meant she thought I was right but didn't want to deal with Mom's wrath. Mom, meanwhile, had declared war. She showed up at the house on Friday afternoon while I was packing Dad's books. I want you out. Today. The estate hasn't been settled. I'm still the caregiver on record. You're not a caregiver anymore. Your father is dead. But his affairs aren't settled. Until they are, I have legal right to remain in the house. She walked over to the bookshelf and started pulling out photo albums. These are family pictures. They belong to the family. I am family. No. She turned to face me, her eyes cold. You stopped being family the day you decided to destroy Aurora's future. I didn't destroy anything. I just refused to let you destroy mine. Aurora has children to think about. A baby on the way. You have nothing. I have nothing because I gave everything to take care of Dad. That was your choice. It was your manipulation. She slammed a photo album on the table. You want to know the truth, Vanessa? Your father felt guilty about you. He knew you'd wasted your life taking care of him instead of getting married and having children like a normal woman. The words hit like a slap. He never said that. He did, to me, many times. He worried that you'd become a bitter old maid with nothing to show for your life. You're lying. Am I? Why do you think he was so eager to sign the house over to Aurora? He wanted to make sure his legacy went to someone who'd actually done something with her life. I stared at her, trying to process what she was saying. He pitied you, Vanessa. We all did. That's when my phone rang. It was Remington, my best friend from high school. Rem, I can't talk right now. Vanessa? What the hell is going on? I just got a call from some woman claiming to be your sister, asking me about your mental health. I looked at Mom, who was pretending to organize photos. What did she say? She wanted to know if you'd ever been hospitalized for depression, if you'd ever talked about hurting yourself or others. She said the family was worried about you. And what did you tell her? I told her to go to hell and hung up. But Vanessa, what is this about? I'll call you back. I hung up and turned to Mom. Aurora's calling my friends now? We're concerned about your mental state. This obsession with money, these delusions about being owed something. Get out. Vanessa, get out of this house right now. You can't throw me out. I'm your mother. You're a stranger who happens to share my DNA. Get out. She gathered up the photo albums and headed for the door, then turned back. You know what your father's last words to me were? Take care of Aurora. She's the one who needs help. After she left, I sat in Dad's empty room and called Remington back. Rem, I need to tell you something. I'm listening. I told her everything. The 5 years of caregiving, the broken promises, the secret contract, the legal battle. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Jesus, Vanessa, your family is insane. They're saying I'm the crazy one. You're not crazy. You're finally standing up for yourself. But what if Mom's right? What if Dad really did pity me? Then he was an idiot. You gave up everything for him. That's not pitiful. That's heroic. It doesn't feel heroic. It feels like I'm destroying everything. Good. Some things need to be destroyed. The next morning, Aurora showed up with a process server. She was suing me for elder abuse and fraud. You want to play hardball? She said as the server handed me the papers. Let's play. I looked at the lawsuit, then at her smug face. Aurora, you have no idea what you just started. We'll see about that. As she walked away, I called Chelsea. They're suing me for elder abuse. Let them. I have 5 years of medical records showing the excellent care you provided, plus those recordings you mentioned. What's our next move? We countersue for defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and interference with contract. How much? Let's start with $500,000 and see how they like it. The courthouse was packed on the day of the hearing. Aurora had apparently told everyone in the family that she was finally going to expose me as the monster who'd stolen her children's inheritance. She walked in wearing a black dress like she was attending another funeral, Carl beside her in an ill-fitting suit. Mom sat in the front row, arms crossed, looking like she was ready to testify that I was the devil incarnate. I sat with Chelsea at the plaintiff's table, wearing the one professional outfit I still owned from my old life. My hands were shaking, but my voice was steady when the judge asked if I was ready to proceed. Yes, Your Honor. Aurora's lawyer went first. He painted a picture of a manipulative daughter who'd isolated her dying father and coerced him into signing documents he didn't understand. Your Honor, the defendant took advantage of Thomas Douglas during his most vulnerable moments. She cut him off from his family, controlled his medications, and used his illness to extract an unconscionable sum from his estate. Then Aurora took the stand. My father was a gentleman, she said, dabbing her eyes with a tissue. When he got sick, Vanessa convinced him that my mother and I didn't care about him. She turned him against us. Can you give the court an example? Her lawyer asked. She wouldn't let us visit without her permission. She monitored his phone calls. When we tried to help with his care, she said we were doing everything wrong. And what about the contract in question? Dad was heavily medicated. He was confused, scared. Vanessa told him that if he didn't sign the contract, she'd abandon him. I watched the jury's faces. A few of them looked sympathetic to Aurora's tears. Then it was Chelsea's turn. Mrs. Santiago, how often did you visit your father during his illness? As often as I could. Define as often as you could. Aurora shifted in her seat. Well, I have 2 small children and another on the way. It was difficult. How often? Once a week? Twice a week? Maybe once a week. For how long? Usually an hour or 2. Chelsea pulled out a calendar. According to this visitor log that your father kept, you visited 37 times in 5 years. That's less than once a month. He kept a visitor log? He did. Would you like to see the entries where he wrote, Aurora came for photos again, or Aurora left when I got sick? Aurora's lawyer objected, but the damage was done. Mrs. Santiago, did you ever change your father's bed sheets? That's not. Did you ever help him bathe when he was too weak to do it himself? Vanessa never asked me to. Did you ever drive him to chemotherapy treatments? I had the children. Did you ever sit with him during the night when he was in pain and couldn't sleep? Aurora was crying now, but they weren't sympathetic tears anymore. They were angry, frustrated tears. I did what I could. What you could was visit once a month for an hour while your sister gave up 5 years of her life. Then Chelsea played the recordings. Aurora's voice filled the courtroom. Dad's having a bad day. Perfect time to get him to sign. And another. Vanessa's too stupid to know what's happening. We'll have the house transferred before she figures it out. The jury's expressions changed. I could see them putting the pieces together. Mom took the stand next, trying to salvage Aurora's case. Vanessa has always been jealous of Aurora. Aurora got married, had children, built a real life. Vanessa never could. So you're saying the defendant was motivated by jealousy? Yes, she saw an opportunity to punish Aurora for being successful. Chelsea stood up for cross-examination. Mrs. Douglas, who asked Vanessa to move back home to care for her father. Well, we all discussed who made the phone call asking her to quit her job and move back. Mom's jaw tightened. I did. And what did you promise her in return? Nothing specific. Chelsea pulled out a document. This is a text message you sent to Vanessa 3 years ago. Would you read it aloud? Mom took the paper reluctantly. Don't worry about the money you're spending on Dad's care. The house will be yours when this is over. It's the least we can do. Does that sound like nothing specific to you? I was just trying to comfort her. By lying to her? Objection. Sustained. But again, the jury heard what they needed to hear. The final blow came when Chelsea called Dr. Martinez, Dad's oncologist. Doctor, in your professional opinion, was Thomas Douglas mentally competent when he signed the caregiver contract? Absolutely. His cognitive function was excellent. He was very clear about his wishes and very grateful for his daughter's care. Did he ever express concerns about the contract? The opposite. He told me he felt guilty that it had taken him so long to formalize the arrangement. He said Vanessa had sacrificed everything for him and deserved to be compensated. When the doctor stepped down, Aurora's case was over. The judge deliberated for less than an hour. In the matter of Douglas' estate, I find in favor of the plaintiff. The caregiver contract is valid and enforceable. The defendant's claims of elder abuse and fraud are without merit and appear to be retaliatory in nature. Aurora collapsed in her chair, sobbing. Carl put his arm around her, but he looked relieved that it was finally over. Furthermore, the judge continued, I'm awarding the plaintiff an additional $50,000 in legal fees and damages for the frivolous lawsuit filed against her. Mom stood up and walked out without looking at me. Aurora had to be helped from the courtroom by Carl and her lawyer. As I gathered my papers, I heard Aurora's voice in the hallway, high and desperate. This isn't over. I'll appeal. I'll fight this until... Her voice faded as the courthouse doors closed behind them. Chelsea squeezed my shoulder. It's over, Vanessa. You won. But standing there in that empty courtroom, victory felt a lot lonelier than I'd expected. The house sold 3 weeks after the court ruling. I watched from my car as the new family moved in. A young couple with a toddler who ran around the yard like it was the most magical place on earth. They'd gotten it for $20,000 under asking price because Aurora had trashed it before she left. Broken windows, holes punched in walls, the kitchen cabinets ripped off their hinges. Her final tantrum. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Hope you're happy. The kids are sleeping on air mattresses because of you. I deleted it without responding. Chelsea met me at the bank to sign the final paperwork. $362,000 after legal fees and court costs. More money than I'd ever seen in my life, and somehow it felt like nothing at all. What will you do now? She asked as we walked out. I honestly don't know. You could go anywhere, do anything. I looked back at the bank, then at the street where I'd grown up. Yeah, I could. That afternoon, I drove to the cemetery. Dad's headstone was simple, just his name and dates. Someone had left flowers, wilted daisies that looked like they'd been there for weeks. Well, Dad, I did it. I kept the contract. I sat down on the grass next to his grave. Aurora's broke. Mom won't speak to me, and half the family thinks I'm a monster, but I won. The wind rustled through the trees, and for a moment I could almost hear his voice. Was it worth it? I was still sitting there when Remington found me. I figured you'd be here, she said, settling down beside me. How'd you know? Because I know you. You always come here when you need to think. We sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the sun set behind the oak trees. So what now? She asked. Everyone keeps asking me that? Because we care about you. Because for the first time in 5 years, you get to choose your own life. I don't even remember what I wanted before all this started. You wanted to travel, remember? You had that whole plan to see Europe, maybe teach English abroad. I'd forgotten about that dream. It felt like something from another lifetime. You also wanted to go back to school, get your master's degree. That was before I spent 5 years out of the workforce. So, you're 34, not 94. You have time. My phone rang. Aurora's number again. I let it go to voicemail, then played it back on speaker. Vanessa, please. Carl lost his job because of all the court dates. We're behind on rent. The kids don't understand why we can't afford groceries. I'm begging you. I deleted the message. She's called 12 times today, I told Remington. What does she want? Money. She wants me to give her some of the settlement. Are you going to? I thought about it. About Aurora's kids, who didn't ask for any of this. About Carl, who'd just been trying to keep his wife happy. About the 5 years I'd lost, the promises that were broken, the family that was destroyed. No. Good. Does that make me a terrible person? It makes you someone who finally learned to value herself. We drove to dinner at that little Italian place downtown where we used to go in high school. Over pasta and wine, Remington told me about her job, her boyfriend, her normal life with normal problems. I missed this, I said, having a conversation that wasn't about medications or doctor appointments or whether someone was eating enough. You can have this every day now. Can I? I feel like I forgot how to be a regular person. You'll remember. It's like riding a bike, except the bike is your own life. On the drive home, we passed Aurora's apartment complex. I could see her car in the parking lot, the back bumper held on with duct tape. Want me to keep driving? Remington asked. No, stop here. Vanessa, just for a minute. I got out and walked to Aurora's door. I could hear the kids inside, laughing at something on TV. Normal kid sounds, happy sounds. I stood there for a long moment, my hand raised to knock. Then I turned around and walked back to the car. What was that about? Remington asked. I needed to see if I felt guilty. And do you? No. I feel sad, but not guilty. The next morning, I called a real estate agent about apartments in Portland. Then I called the university about their graduate program. Then I booked a flight to London, just because I could. As I was packing, I found the photo Dad had kept on his nightstand. The four of us at Christmas when I was 12 and Aurora was 9. We looked happy then, like a real family. I studied Mom's face in the picture, the way she was looking at Dad with genuine love. Aurora was missing her front teeth, grinning at the camera. Dad had his arms around all of us, protective and proud. I almost threw it away. Then I slipped it into my suitcase instead. Some things are worth keeping, even when they hurt. My phone rang one last time as I was loading my car. Mom's number. I answered. Vanessa. Her voice was different, smaller. Mom. I needed to tell you something. I waited. Your father did love you. Whatever else happened, whatever I said, he loved you very much. I know. Do you? Because I said some terrible things? You did. But I know Dad loved me. That's why he made sure I'd be okay. She was quiet for a long moment. I'm sorry. For all of it. I know you are. Can you ever forgive us? I looked at the house one last time, at the windows where I'd spent 5 years watching Dad fade away, at the door where Aurora had celebrated stealing my future. Maybe someday, but not today. I hung up and drove away, toward whatever came next. In my rearview mirror, the house got smaller and smaller until it disappeared completely. And for the first time in 5 years, that felt exactly right.